Welcome to Night Science Tales tonight. We are taking a journey into the silent, deep green world to discover the gentle truths and quiet moments of plant slumber. We won't be counting dense numbers, but rather listening to a garden full of soft stories as the flora settles down for the evening. This is not a heavy lesson or a demanding lecture. These are simply sleepy, soft stories whispered by the leaves and roots beneath the soil. We will explore little secrets about how plants rest, how they dream of sunlight, and the subtle, slow rhythm of their hidden life cycles. Let your own thoughts slow down now. Breathe softly, and allow yourself to drift with the immense, quiet wonders held within every stem and blossom. If these gentle science stories help quiet your mind, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Night Science Tales so you can enjoy more restful tales in the future. Point 1. The quiet energy of the sun is captured by leaves through photosynthesis, creating gentle sugars that fuel the plant's slow growth. The vast, steady furnace of the sun pours its soft, golden light across the turning curvature of the earth, a cosmic distance traversed by quiet photons that carry the warmth of ages. These tiny packets of solar energy arrive without sound, settling upon the receptive surfaces of countless leaves spread across landscapes both humid and arid. It is here, within the microscopic chambers of the chloroplasts, that an ancient, profound alchemy unfolds with perfect calm. The unassuming leaf, damp with morning dew or simply absorbing the humidity of the air, draws in the invisible carbon dioxide, combining it with the water pulled up from the deep, dark soil. This intricate molecular dance, driven by the captured sunlight, transforms the raw elements into the gentle, complex structures of glucose, the foundational sugar. This sugar is not a rapid burst of energy, but a slow, sweet fuel, patiently distributed through the plant's vascular system, nourishing the quiet extension of a new stem or the slow unfurling of a new bud. The entire process of photosynthesis is a testament to natural stillness, a quiet conversion of radiant power into stored chemical potential, ensuring the slow, steady rhythm of life continues, minute by predictable minute. We observe the green canopy standing motionless in the afternoon heat, unaware of the ceaseless, silent work occurring within, where billions of tiny chemical factories hum at a frequency too low for human perception, feeding the slow, inevitable expansion of the botanical world, and providing the very breath that moves gently through the atmosphere, stabilizing the whole delicate system against the backdrop of the deep, black void of space. The planet itself inhales and exhales through this gentle, steady sugar creation, linking the stellar fire to the quiet growth occurring right outside our sleeping windows, a perpetual, silent promise of sustenance and peace. Point 2. During the deepest nighttime hours, many plants release stored oxygen, softly refreshing the air around their sleeping forms. As the earth spins slowly on its tilted axis, drawing the protective curtain of night across the hemisphere, a subtle shift occurs within the biological engine of the sleeping flora. The bright work of daylight photosynthesis pauses, yielding to the slower, restorative process of cellular respiration, which continues softly throughout the deepest darkness. While some plants maintain continuous oxygen production, many species utilize the reserves built during the sunny hours, steadily exchanging stored gases with the quiet atmosphere. It is a time of soft release, a gentle exhalation that complements the quiet stillness of the sleeping world. The air hanging low over the moonlit forest floor or pooled within a sleeping garden receives this imperceptible gift of freshness, a molecular refinement achieved without sound or hurried motion. This quiet exchange ensures the continuous balance of the atmospheric composition, a steady, ongoing conversation between the sleeping land and the vast emptiness above. The molecules of oxygen drift free, carried on the faintest currents of night air, mingling with the scent of damp earth and cool dew. This biological generosity occurs while the moon traces its predictable path across the velvet sky, illuminating the still, dark shapes of trees that stand as silent sentinels, participating in the gentle purification of the world during the hours when all creatures rest. The slow chemistry unfolds without need for human observation, a constant, measured heartbeat of the living planet, ensuring that the air remains clean and restorative, ready for the slow return of the light and the renewed cycle of wakefulness and growth. The plant rests, yet its quiet work continues, a soothing, inevitable function tied to the cosmic rotation that governs our every moment of rest, maintaining the delicate equilibrium of the shared, sleeping environment beneath the silent stars. Point 3. Chlorophyll molecules are busy pigments that absorb blues and reds, reflecting the soft, restful green back toward our quiet eyes. The phenomenon of color, that quiet miracle perceived by the soft mechanism of our eyes, is fundamentally a story of light rejection. The tiny, intricate structures of chlorophyll, the dominant pigment found across the wide breadth of the botanical kingdom, are highly specialized receivers of solar radiation. These molecular antennas are perfectly tuned to capture the high-energy blue wavelengths and the longer, gentler red wavelengths of the spectrum. Utilizing nearly every photon they can successfully intercept for the necessary creation of energy. Yet within the narrow band of the visible spectrum lies the green light, which the chlorophyll does not absorb but instead gently deflects away from its surface. This unutilized light, the remainder of the sun's broad palette, bounces back, traveling across the intervening space until it softly settles upon our retinas, registering as the ubiquitous, soothing shade of green. This color, the visible evidence of the plant's energy absorption, is inherently connected to life and restfulness, a visual confirmation of health and ongoing biological activity. The reflection is soft and passive. The leaf simply discards what it cannot use, and in that gentle act of rejection, the world is painted in the most common and calming hue. The depth of the green shifts softly throughout the season, lightening with new growth, deepening in the stable warmth of summer, all dependent on the density and efficiency of these reflective molecules. It is a constant, steady visual presence, reassuring the observer that the cycle of photosynthesis is reliably proceeding, a silent promise of continuity and slow, deliberate nourishment underlying all life on the Earth's surface. We find solace in the green because it signifies the quiet, steady persistence of creation, a gentle reminder that energy is always flowing, even when the world seems to be standing perfectly still, enveloped in a hue that signifies biological thriving and deep, natural peace. Point 4. Sunlight filters through the canopy in dappled patches, moving slowly across the forest floor like a drifting, silent blanket. The immense, steady flow of solar energy encounters the complex resistance of the forest canopy high above, a dense network of leaves, branches, and soft needles that acts as a natural sieve. As the light attempts its descent, it is broken, fragmented, and gently scattered into countless irregular shapes and patterns upon the dark, humid ground below. These patches are not static. They are the visual representation of the Earth's slow, stately rotation. As the sun continues its low, quiet arc across the sky, the angles of light penetration constantly change, causing the luminous patches to migrate across the mossy logs and the sleeping ferns with an almost imperceptible pace. This movement is profoundly slow, a tangible visualization of the passage of quiet time. A single patch of golden light may take several minutes to drift the width of a sleeping stone, its edges softening and sharpening as the air above subtly shifts and the branches sway with the faintest currents. It is like a silent, woven blanket of warmth being pulled slowly across the cool earth, offering momentary illumination and heat before sliding onward. In this dappled environment, harsh shadows are minimized, replaced by a restful interplay of soft brightness and gentle gloom, creating an atmosphere of deep tranquility. The forest floor exists perpetually beneath this migrating light show, where time is measured not by sharp ticks, but by the slow, inevitable elongation of a shadow or the creeping progress of a sunspot across a root. It is a hypnotic visualization of physics and astronomy merging with botany, a reminder that all movement on Earth is relative to the slow, steady turning of the planet itself, creating a rhythm of light and shadow that induces profound natural calmness and stillness beneath the sheltering embrace of the ancient trees, where the light itself seems to be gently sleeping. Point 5. Roots extend silently through the dark earth, feeling for moisture and nutrients with an unseen, patient exploration. Deep beneath the visible world, far removed from the turbulent motions of the air and the glaring brightness of the sun, the root systems pursue their unseen, ceaseless exploration. This growth is one of pure patience and quiet determination, driven by fundamental biological imperatives: the pull of gravity and the search for water and essential chemical compounds. The growing root tip, protected by a specialized cap, moves with exquisite slowness, navigating the resistance of compacted soil, maneuvering around hard stones, and following the microscopic capillaries of water retention. There is no sound to this subterranean labor, only the silent, hydraulic pressure of cell expansion and division. The root acts as a sensitive, unhurried surveyor exhibiting hydrotropism, as it senses the slightest gradients in moisture concentration, patiently turning its tip towards the richer, damper regions of the soil matrix. It also draws in essential ions, microscopic nutrients dissolved in the water film, sustaining the great structure above. This complex network, extending outward and downward, creates a mirror image of the canopy, a quiet infrastructure of stability and resource acquisition that defines the hidden strength of the plant. A single root might travel for weeks to reach a subterranean reservoir, its progress measured in millimeters per day, moving with an inevitability that dismisses haste. We may observe the branches moving gently in the breeze, but the true labor of anchoring and nourishing the plant is conducted in the permanent darkness below. A silent, continuous investigation into the composition of the earth, proving that the most foundational and important forms of life are often those that work without ever asking for recognition or light, constantly ensuring the quiet persistence of the organism. Above. Point 6. Mycorrhizal fungi form hushed, mutual alliances with roots, extending the plant's ability to gather water in the silent soil. Within the permanent darkness and stillness of the subsoil, beneath the loose top layer and amongst the mineral grains, an extraordinary silent partnership unfolds, linking nearly all plant life into a vast, complex biological web. This alliance involves the mycorrhizal fungi, whose hyphae, delicate thread-like structures, extend far beyond the reach of the plant's own roots. These microscopic threads weave through the soil, creating an immense, intricate network, a subterranean infrastructure that operates with profound efficiency and stillness. The relationship is one of perfect mutualism. The fungus, unable to produce its own food, receives the steady, gentle flow of sugars created by the plant through photosynthesis above. In return, the vast fungal network acts as a quiet extension of the root system, reaching into minute crevices and distant soil pockets to gather water and critical immobile nutrients, such as phosphorus. The hyphae are significantly finer than even the smallest root hairs, allowing them to access resources unavailable to the host plant, effectively multiplying the plant's absorption surface area many thousands of times over. This quiet, ceaseless work ensures that water is delivered steadily, molecule by molecule, to the plant's base, particularly during periods of dryness. It is a silent contract of reciprocity, a system that underscores the interconnected nature of life below the ground, where countless organisms cooperate in hushed synchronicity, creating a stable, supportive environment that allows the towering trees and the delicate flowers above to maintain their slow, steady presence against the constant pull of gravity and the gentle demands of their own inherent growth cycles, all sustained by the massive, invisible fungal network, quietly holding the ecosystem together. Point 7. The deepest taproots anchor ancient trees securely, resisting the strongest winds with centuries of quiet stability. The venerable structure of an ancient tree, standing firm against the insistent forces of wind and weather, is a testament to the quiet engineering achieved by its taproot, that primary anchor extending vertically deep into the earth. This root is not merely a collector of nutrients. It is the ultimate foundation, a biological piling driven slowly and inexorably toward the bedrock or the deep subsoil layers. While lateral roots spread wide to capture surface resources and provide rotational stability, the taproot maintains the tree's necessary resistance to uplifting and horizontal forces, defying the immense leverage created by a vast canopy hundreds of feet above the ground. The growth of this root is measured in generations, a patient response to the steady pull of gravity and the need for absolute, unyielding security. It resists the cyclical forces of the seasons, the saturating rains that loosen the soil, the deep frosts that attempt to heave the earth, and the strongest atmospheric pressures that manifest as powerful gales. This stability is achieved through silent, constant cell reinforcement, a gradual thickening that hardens the structure over centuries. The deep taproot is a silent assurance, symbolizing the immense strength inherent in slowness and permanence. When we observe a magnificent oak standing unmoved against a winter storm, we are witnessing the quiet triumph of unseen, deep-seated growth against the momentary chaos of the atmosphere. A quiet, centuries-long commitment to the spot of earth that holds it fast, ensuring its continuity long after the passing moment of turbulence subsides. This foundation of stillness allows the tree to exist within the constant cycles of time, patiently watching the passage of years with unshakable dignity and calm. 8. Tiny soil bacteria quietly transform nitrogen into usable forms, providing essential, unseen nourishment to the growing stems. The crucial element of nitrogen, while abundant in the Earth's atmosphere, exists in a form that is largely inaccessible to plants directly. This necessary life-sustaining component must undergo a quiet, biochemical transformation, a vital process performed entirely by the countless, industrious populations of soil bacteria. These microscopic laborers exist in unimaginable numbers within every handful of rich earth, conducting their essential duties without any sound or visibility. Certain species of bacteria specialize in nitrogen fixation, patiently converting the atmospheric gas into ammonia, and subsequently, through further quiet metabolic steps involving other bacterial communities, transforming it into nitrites and then nitrates. It is the nitrate form that the plant roots can finally absorb, drawing the essential nutrient into their slow circulation. This process of the nitrogen cycle is a fundamental pillar of terrestrial life, an unseen system of recycling and conversion that proceeds perpetually, independent of human scale or speed. The health of the entire plant community rests upon the tireless, silent work of these minute organisms, which act as the planet's microscopic chemical factory, ensuring that the elements necessary for protein construction and DNA replication are made steadily available. This quiet collaboration, where life forms too small to see mediate the most important chemical flows, allows the stems to rise, the leaves to expand, and the fruits to form, all powered by the invisible, quiet efficiency of the tiny world unfolding deep within the calm, dark soil, maintaining the nutrient balance for all the larger, visible life above. 9. Many flowering plants exhibit nyctinasty, gently folding their petals closed as the evening shadows softly begin to deepen. As the sun dips below the horizon and the residual light softens into the deep blues of twilight, many flowering species engage in a delicate, rhythmic movement known as nyctinasty, the sleep movement of plants. This slow, predictable action involves the gentle folding inward or drooping of the petals and leaves, a quiet closure that marks the end of the day's active light absorption. The mechanism is often powered by subtle, differential changes in turgor pressure within the specialized motor cells located at the base of the petals. As the light stimulus diminishes, certain cells slowly lose water pressure, causing the tissue to relax and fold, protecting the sensitive reproductive parts of the flower from the cool, damp air of the night, and perhaps from nocturnal herbivory. This movement is never hurried. It is a slow, gradual drawing in, like a quiet sigh or the gentle pulling up of a warm sheet. The act mirrors our own biological imperative to seek rest and stillness when the ambient light fades. The folded flower holds its quiet shape throughout the deep hours, conserving its resources and preparing its surfaces for the first touch of the returning morning sun. It is a visible, gentle manifestation of the plant's deep-seated circadian rhythm, proving that life cycles are intrinsically linked to the steady, predictable progression of night and day, ensuring that every living entity, from the largest tree to the smallest bloom, follows the quiet command of the rotational clock. This nightly process of closure is a natural, soothing gesture of surrender to the dark, a gentle preparation for the necessary pause of slumber. 10. Tendrils of climbing vines slowly spiral upwards, seeking support in a gentle, almost imperceptible turning motion toward the light. The tendrils of climbing vines are instruments of patience and precise, slow motion, driven by the plant's deep necessity to elevate its leaves toward the maximum available sunlight. These slender filaments execute a quiet, circular sweeping motion, a continuous, slow exploration of the space immediately surrounding them, seeking contact with any stable structure that can offer support. This seeking movement, which can take hours to complete a single revolution, is a form of passive, graceful searching, guided partly by phototropism, the gentle inclination toward the source of light. Once a tendril makes contact with a rough surface, a branch, a trellis, or a neighboring stem, it exhibits thigmotropism, responding to the touch by initiating a rapid increase in cell growth on the opposite side of the point of contact. This uneven growth forces the tendril to coil tightly around the support, transforming the previously soft structure into a robust, living spring. The subsequent coiling often forms a beautiful, mathematically precise spiral, creating a highly efficient, shock-absorbing anchor that stabilizes the vine as it slowly stretches upward. This entire process unfolds at a speed barely perceptible to the casual observer, a quiet commitment to verticality. The spiral, a foundational form in nature and physics, reflects the vine's efficient use of space and material, allowing the plant to climb toward the sun in a gentle, persistent, and entirely silent act of upward aspiration, ensuring its leaves eventually spread into the warming, open light above, fulfilling its destiny with slow, elegant determination. 11. The faint rhythm of a plant's sap flowing carries water and nourishment up high, a slow, sustained pulse unseen by busy eyes. This unseen current is a miracle of quiet physics, a steady ascent driven not by a beating heart, but by the subtle, persistent forces inherent in water itself. Deep within the earth, the roots absorb the moisture, guided by the silent, chemical whisper of need, and this water begins its journey through the vascular system of the plant, moving against the constant, powerful pull of gravity. The liquid travels through the xylem tubes, minute vessels designed for this essential, vertical transport. It is a column of liquid bound tightly by cohesion, where each water molecule gently holds fast to its neighbors, maintaining the integrity of the stream from the damp earth below to the highest leaf tip reaching toward the sun. This column is also helped by adhesion, the way the water softly clings to the cellulose walls of the tubes, allowing the whole structure to be drawn upward in a continuous, deliberate flow. As the sun warms the leaves high above, water vapor quietly escapes through the tiny stomata, creating a gentle tension or pull at the top of the column, a process known as transpiration. This constant evaporation acts like an invisible, noiseless pump, drawing the entire liquid thread slowly upward, minute by minute, throughout the quiet daylight hours. If one were to listen closely with specialized equipment, one might detect the almost imperceptible sound of this vast movement of life, a slow, sustained pulse that mirrors the long, patient cycles of the Earth's own rotation and the slow drift of the continents. It is a foundational rhythm, the very respiration of the land, happening ceaselessly beneath the surface of observation, ensuring that every cell receives its necessary share of moisture and dissolved minerals, allowing the silent process of growth and sustaining the deep, steady respiration of the living world. The process is continuous, gentle, and utterly essential for the towering green architecture that shades the sleeping ground. 12. As autumn approaches, trees quietly draw resources back into their core, preparing for the long, restful slumber of winter. This preparation is a slow, methodical decommissioning, a careful retreat performed in anticipation of the cold stillness and the limited light that winter brings. The tree, guided by the shortening photoperiod and the cooling touch of the air, issues chemical signals that direct the withdrawal of vital components from the broad leaves. Chlorophyll, the essential green pigment that captures the sun's energy through photosynthesis, is carefully broken down into its base compounds. These valuable nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus, are gently moved through the phloem vessels back into the protective embrace of the trunk and the deep roots, where they can be stored safely until spring's awakening. This systematic retraction is the reason for the spectacular color change. As the dominant green fades, the hidden pigments, the yellows of the carotenoids and the oranges, are revealed, catching the low autumn sun in a final, quiet display. Simultaneously, at the base of each leaf stem, the tree begins to form an abscission layer, a subtle line of cells that will eventually allow the leaf to gently detach without causing damage to the living wood. This layer is a deliberate seal, preparing the tree to shed the unnecessary surface area that would otherwise lose vital moisture during the dry cold of winter. The tree enters a state of deep, metabolic rest, often called dormancy, lowering its energy expenditure to the bare minimum required to maintain life within the insulated bark. This long, deep sleep is not merely survival. It is a profound reset, essential for the vigor and renewed burst of life that will characterize the following spring, connecting the tree deeply to the annual, predictable cycle of the Earth's orbit around the patient sun. The tree stands still, a sentinel awaiting the snow, dreaming slowly of warmth. 13. Seeds often rest in the soil for months or years, waiting patiently for the perfect quiet moment to awaken and sprout. This period of seed dormancy is a profound biological strategy, a calculated pause that ensures the fragile moment of germination only occurs when the conditions for survival are optimally gentle and sustained. Within the protective, often tough shell of the seed, the tiny embryo remains suspended in a state of extremely low metabolic activity, waiting for the precise combination of environmental cues to signal safety. These cues are often complex and overlapping, functioning like a natural lock requiring several keys to turn simultaneously. Some seeds require a sustained period of chilling, simulating the quiet passing of winter, a process known as stratification, which chemically breaks down the growth inhibitors. Others require the abrasive action of flowing water or the digestive tracts of animals to thin the seed coat, allowing moisture to penetrate. Perhaps most dramatically, some seeds only awaken after the fierce, intense heat of a wildfire has passed, signaling a clearing of competition and the return of nutrient-rich ashes. The seed does not rush. Its patience spans seasons, sometimes decades, embedded in the dark, silent earth, measuring the passage of time through subtle changes in soil temperature, moisture content, and the quality of light filtering down through the layers above. It waits for the moment when the risk of frost is past, when the rain is consistent, and when the chances of its seedling surviving are at their highest probability. This waiting is a testament to the resilience of life, a quiet commitment to the future that operates on time scales far longer than human perception, illustrating the deep, unwavering trust that biological systems place in the inevitable cycling of the planet. 14. Dandelion seeds drift on the gentle breeze, floating like tiny, hopeful parachutes searching for a soft place to land. Each miniature seed is attached to a delicate structure called the pappus, a perfect crown of fine, feathery filaments engineered for maximum aerodynamic efficiency. When the wind moves softly across a field, it catches these fragile structures, lifting the seed into the air where it becomes entirely surrendered to the currents. The design of the pappus is a masterpiece of natural physics. The open, radial structure creates a slow-motion vortex ring of air above the seed, significantly increasing the drag and allowing the seed to remain aloft for extended periods despite its minuscule mass. They float along the boundary layers of air near the ground, sometimes lifted higher on thermal currents rising from sun-warmed fields, traveling distances far beyond the reach of the parent plant. This quiet journey is a vital part of the dandelion's widespread success, scattering the future across meadows, sidewalk cracks, and quiet corners of undisturbed soil. Each drifting parachute is a symbol of lightness and ease, carried by forces much larger than itself. There is no effort, only surrender to the invisible flow of the atmosphere. As the air stills and the momentum fades, the weight of the seed slowly overcomes the lift, and the dandelion descends, spiraling gently earthward. It searches for a break in the canopy, a receptive patch of damp earth, completing its silent aerial navigation. The whole process is a soft meditation on the power of lightness and the quiet, persistent movement of air molecules across the vast, sleeping landscape, ensuring that life finds a way to softly settle and begin anew wherever the wind decides to rest. 15. Pollen grains are meticulously carried by quiet insects or wind, completing the delicate cycle of floral reproduction across fields. These microscopic grains, containing the genetic future of the plant, are sculpted into countless shapes, each texture and size adapted specifically for its mode of transport. Wind-pollinated species, such as grasses and many trees, produce vast clouds of lightweight, smooth pollen, designed to drift effortlessly on the atmospheric currents, relying on sheer quantity and chance for successful landing on a receptive stigma miles away. In contrast, insect-pollinated flowers create stickier, heavier pollen, often beautifully textured with intricate spines or grooves, designed to adhere specifically to the fuzzy legs and bodies of their quiet visitors. The journey of the pollen on the body of a bee or a beetle is a close, coordinated biological dance, perfected over eons of coevolution. As the insect busies itself gathering sweet nectar, the pollen dusts its body in a silent transaction. When the insect moves to the next bloom of the same species, the grains are transferred with soft precision, completing the essential genetic exchange that allows seeds and fruits to form. This quiet transfer is the basis of countless ecosystems, a delicate network of interaction that ensures the continuation of plant life. The stillness of the early morning often sees this silent work beginning, the gentle hum of the insects a soft counterpoint to the rustling leaves, all participating in the slow, inevitable movement of genetic material across the soft, fertile landscape, a quiet testament to biological necessity. 16. Some desert plants use sudden, heavy rains as a signal, bursting into soft, fleeting bloom before the dry stillness returns. The arid environment demands extreme patience and specialized timing. Plants cannot afford to waste the precious resource of water on sustained displays. Instead, they wait in deep, dehydrated dormancy, sometimes for years, storing energy within their roots or compressed bodies. When the rare, substantial desert rain finally arrives, soaking deep into the porous soil, it acts as a dramatic, undeniable signal. The plant springs into action, accelerating its entire life cycle into a matter of days or sometimes just hours. The bloom is often spectacular and vivid, a sudden explosion of color and fragrance designed to attract the few pollinators that brave the challenging landscape quickly and effectively. These ephemeral flowers must perform their entire reproductive duty, attract the carriers, receive the pollen, and begin setting the seed, before the intense desert sun and low humidity wick the life-giving moisture away. This rapid cycle, this burst of urgent, quiet activity against a backdrop of deep, endless silence, is a masterful adaptation. Once the seeds are set, the plant rapidly retreats, shedding its leaves and flowers, returning to its protected, low-metabolism state, enduring the long, patient wait for the next distant promise of rain. The beauty of the desert bloom is inherently tied to its transients, a soft, powerful reminder that life can be stored, compressed, and then briefly, beautifully unleashed when the conditions of the vast, quiet world permit. 17. The stomata, tiny mouth-like pores on leaves, quietly open and close to manage water loss and breathe in the needed carbon dioxide. These microscopic structures are essential gatekeepers, controlling the crucial exchange of gases required for photosynthesis and survival. Each stoma is surrounded by two specialized guard cells which, through subtle changes in internal pressure, dictate whether the pore is open or tightly closed. During the bright day, when the sun is fueling the photosynthetic machinery, the plant needs to take in vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the air. The guard cells fill with water, becoming turgid and swell outward, opening the stomatal pore to allow the gas exchange to occur. This opening, however, comes at a cost, as water vapor inevitably escapes from the moist interior of the leaf into the drier air outside, a process known as transpiration. If the day becomes too hot, or if the soil moisture drops dangerously low, the plant quickly signals the guard cells to lose their internal water pressure. They soften and collapse inward, closing the pore to conserve the vital moisture, even if it means temporarily slowing the process of converting sunlight into energy. This continuous, quiet adjustment is the plant's delicate negotiation with its environment, a precise, silent balancing act performed thousands of times across the surface of a single leaf, ensuring the maintenance of the internal moisture balance while still capturing the necessary ingredients for growth and health. A tiny, necessary rhythm of open and close, inhale and hold, throughout the steady cycle of the sun. 18. Water flows through the xylem tubes using passive capillary action, a miracle of physics that requires no noisy pump or effort. This principle relies entirely on the inherent properties of water and the extremely narrow diameter of the transport vessels. Capillary action is driven by two main forces working in unison: adhesion and cohesion. Adhesion describes water's tendency to stick to the surfaces of other materials, in this case, the cellulose walls of the xylem tubes. Cohesion describes water's tendency for its own molecules to stick tightly to one another, forming a continuous, unbroken chain. Because the xylem tubes are so fine, often only micrometers wide, the forces of adhesion are strong enough to pull the edges of the water column slightly upward against gravity. And because the water molecules are so cohesive, the entire column is dragged along with this upward edge. It is a completely passive phenomenon, requiring no expenditure of metabolic energy from the plant itself, embodying the quiet efficiency of natural law. The narrowness of the tube is crucial. If the tubes were wider, the weight of the water would overwhelm the adhesive forces, and the lift would not occur. Instead, the plant creates countless miniature tubes, harnessing this elegant physical principle to ensure that water, drawn up primarily by the gentle suction of transpiration high above, can move steadily upward without the need for a complex, energy-intensive circulation system, relying only on the invisible, unwavering bonds between hydrogen and oxygen atoms. 19. Mosses carpet stones and shaded ground, forming soft, velvety landscapes that absorb sound and invite quiet contemplation. These ancient, non-vascular plants, known as bryophytes, lack the deep root systems and complex internal plumbing of larger trees. Instead, they anchor themselves with simple rhizoids and absorb moisture directly through their small, densely packed leaves from the humid air and surface dew. Mosses thrive in the still, shadowed spaces, creating continuous, soft green cushions that act as miniature reservoirs, holding onto dampness long after the rain has passed. Their thick, velvety texture not only traps water, but also dampens environmental noise, lending an extra layer of silence to the already quiet corners of the forest floor or the side of a forgotten rock wall. Walking through a mossy grove feels profoundly still. The sound waves are gently absorbed by the myriad tiny, damp surfaces, encouraging a profound sense of stillness and deep quiet. They form communities where small insects and microscopic organisms find quiet shelter, stabilizing the thin layer of soil and preventing erosion with their soft, persistent presence. Mosses represent a profound link to deep geological time, having adapted their simple, resilient structure over hundreds of millions of years. They remind us that complexity is not always necessary for survival, and that persistence can be found in softness, transforming hard, angular surfaces into gentle, yielding beds of quiet, deep green contemplation. Their slow, steady growth is a quiet testament to enduring life in the still, dark corners of the world. 20. Ferns unfurl their fronds in slow, perfect spirals called fiddleheads, mirroring ancient mathematical patterns in their growth. The emerging fiddlehead, tightly coiled like the head of a violin, is a striking example of a natural logarithmic spiral, often conforming closely to the mathematical sequence known as the Fibonacci series. This precise geometry is not accidental. It is a fundamental efficiency mechanism that allows the maximum number of growing points to be packed into the smallest possible space, while protecting the tender new growth at the center from damage. As the fern grows, the spiral slowly unwinds, guided by the measured expansion of cells along the curve, a movement so gradual it is imperceptible to casual observation. This process of unrolling, known as circumnutation, is a quiet, deliberate expansion into the light and space. The spiral pattern seen in the fern is not unique. It is repeated throughout the natural world, appearing in the arrangement of seeds on a sunflower head, the curve of a seashell, the structure of a galaxy, and the arrangement of scales on a pinecone. This recurrence suggests a universal principle of efficient growth and packing, linking the tiny, quiet expansion of a plant on the forest floor to the vast, swirling movements of cosmic dust. To observe a fiddlehead slowly achieving its final, flat, lacy form is to witness mathematics made manifest in soft green tissue, a testament to the elegant, ordered principles that govern all growth, large and small. The fern unfurls, tracing a line of soft, timeless perfection in the cool, shaded air, a quiet pattern of increasing size and complexity emerging from the stillness of the tight coil. 21. The scent of jasmine drifts out gently after sunset, releasing its perfume into the cool, dark air to attract nocturnal visitors. This release is a carefully timed biological event, synchronized precisely with the cooling of the Earth's surface and the slow withdrawal of intense sunlight. During the day, the fragrant oils, which are complex volatile organic compounds, are held tightly within the flower's delicate structure, conserving energy and moisture against the heat. But as the shadows lengthen and the ambient temperature drops, the cellular structure begins its slow, quiet change. The molecules of scent are then allowed to escape, drifting on the faint, sinking currents of cooler air. These molecules rise and fall subtly, creating an invisible, three-dimensional map of perfume across the landscape. They travel slowly, following the principles of diffusion, patiently spreading their invitation. For the nocturnal creatures, particularly the quiet, velvet-winged moths, this scent is an undeniable beacon, a chemical signal far stronger than sight in the deep darkness. Moths, navigating by the subtle angles of the moon and the distinct geometry of these airborne compounds, are drawn softly toward the white flowers. This exchange is ancient and essential. The plant offers its sweet reward, and the insect in return ensures the passage of pollen, continuing the life cycle under the silent watch of the distant stars. The stillness of the night amplifies this quiet chemistry, making the jasmine's soft appeal a pervasive, comforting presence in the sleeping garden, encouraging deep, restorative rest as the planet rotates slowly toward morning. 22. Deciduous trees shed their autumn colors in a slow, graceful cascade, creating a soft, whispering blanket upon the forest floor. The process begins deep inside the leaves, signaled by the shortening arc of the sun across the sky and the subtle drop in daytime warmth. Sensing this inevitable seasonal shift, the tree initiates a masterful molecular retraction. The vibrant green pigment, chlorophyll, which served as the leaf's primary solar panel throughout the energetic summer months, is not simply destroyed. It is carefully disassembled. Its vital components, particularly precious nitrogen and other essential minerals, are efficiently drawn back into the safety of the trunk and the root system, where they will wait patiently through the cold, static winter. As the green mask is lifted, the underlying stable pigments, the golden xanthophylls and the amber carotenoids, reveal themselves, illuminating the canopy in slow, rich bursts of warm color. Simultaneously, a corky layer of specialized cells forms at the base of the leaf stem, weakening the connection over many quiet days. Finally, when the bond is completely dissolved, the leaves let go with the softest reluctance, yielding to the persistent, gentle persuasion of gravity or the lightest sigh of the passing wind. They drift down in spirals and easy curves, settling softly upon the earth where they will decompose slowly, becoming the essential, nutrient-rich cushion for the following spring, completing the peaceful, predictable cycle of letting go and returning. 23. Succulents store precious water in their plump, resilient leaves, allowing them to remain calm during long periods of drought. This incredible ability is rooted in highly specialized cellular structure designed for maximum efficiency and minimum loss. Their thick, fleshy leaves are equipped with layers of parenchyma cells, acting like microscopic sponges that absorb and hold vast quantities of water, maintaining an internal reservoir against the desert's dry insistence. To further minimize evaporation, succulents possess a thick, waxy outer coating, known as a cuticle, which acts as a gentle sealant against the sun's relentless draw. Furthermore, they often employ a unique method of photosynthesis known as crassulacean acid metabolism, or CAM. Unlike most plants which open their pores, or stomata, during the day to breathe, the succulent performs this essential exchange only at night, when the air is cool and still, and the risk of moisture loss is lowest. The stomata open slightly, allowing carbon dioxide to enter and be chemically stored until the morning light can activate the necessary sugar production. This slow, deliberate process ensures that every precious drop of stored moisture is carefully managed, allowing the plant to exist in a state of quiet, self-contained resilience. The plumpness of their leaves is a constant, visible measure of their internal peace, a testament to the wisdom of slow consumption and careful waiting against the backdrop of an often harsh and hurried world. 24. Certain aquatic plants release small bubbles of oxygen underwater, creating a quiet, shimmering trail toward the surface light. This phenomenon, often observed in calm, sunlit aquarium tanks or placid ponds, is a visible signature of active, successful photosynthesis. During the day, as light energy penetrates the water, the submerged leaves are busily converting carbon dioxide and water into usable sugars, their steady food source. A crucial byproduct of this conversion is molecular oxygen. Because the surrounding water is already saturated with dissolved oxygen, the newly created gas cannot be instantly absorbed. Instead, it slowly coalesces into tiny, spherical pockets within the leaf tissue. Once these tiny pockets grow large enough, they detach gently from the leaf's surface due to buoyancy, beginning their slow, unwavering ascent. These bubbles are smooth and perfectly round, acting like microscopic lenses that catch and scatter the light as they rise, creating a soft, silver chain leading toward the calmer air above the surface tension. The speed of their travel is governed by the principles of fluid dynamics and gravity, ensuring a steady, silent movement. Each bubble represents a breath of life released into the aquatic environment, a quiet confirmation of the plant's continuous, gentle labor, sustaining the quiet life that moves and drifts beneath the surface film of the water world. 25. The thick, ridged bark of a redwood tree offers a silent, protective armor against fire and the passing of countless quiet seasons. This outer layer is far more than a simple covering. It is a complex, engineered defense system, built up slowly over centuries of static growth. The bark can often grow to be many feet thick at the base, creating a dense, insulating shield composed primarily of non-living, fibrous tissue. Because this wood is poor at conducting heat and often contains very little volatile resin, it resists combustion remarkably well, offering profound protection to the delicate living tissue, the cambium layer, that lies just beneath its surface. When low-intensity ground fires inevitably pass through the forest floor, the outer bark chars slowly, absorbing the heat and preventing it from reaching the core that sustains life. In addition to fire resistance, the bark offers a steady, reliable barrier against insect infestation, fungal growth, and the slow erosion caused by wind and rain across millennia. Each deep ridge and furrow visible on the massive trunk tells a story of survival, a record of storms weathered and seasons endured. The redwood stands rooted in a quiet dedication to endurance, its ancient armor a metaphor for slow, consistent defense against the dynamic, sometimes turbulent, flow of time. Beneath this silent, protective exterior, the steady, patient work of growth continues, reaching slowly higher toward the unchanging light. 26. Respiration is the quiet reversal of photosynthesis, where plants consume sugars gently to maintain their structure during the night. While photosynthesis is the famous process of energy capture, the plant actively building sugars using sunlight, respiration is the lesser-known, yet equally vital process of energy deployment. As the sun dips below the horizon and the garden falls into darkness, the energy creation factory shuts down, but the plant's fundamental need for maintenance does not cease. Cells must still be repaired, roots must continue their slow exploration of the soil, and the plant must sustain its internal pressure and structure. Respiration allows the plant to use the very sugars it stored during the bright day, gently breaking down those complex carbohydrate molecules back into carbon dioxide, water, and crucially, usable energy known as ATP. This process is a slow, steady burn, happening softly within the cellular mitochondria throughout the hours of darkness. It is an act of quiet self-management, ensuring that the integrity gained during the day is not lost during the night's rest. Just as a sleeper breathes deeply and steadily to restore the body, the plant respires softly, maintaining its perfect stillness and preparing its structures for the demanding work of the next sunrise. This continuous, balanced exchange between light-driven building and dark-driven maintenance is the rhythm of all botanical life, a soothing, inescapable cycle of quiet work and gentle resting. 27. Bamboo stalks grow with impressive speed, yet their rising is a silent, smooth, almost unbelievable ascent toward the clouds. The swiftness of bamboo's vertical expansion is a wonder of botanical engineering, relying on an intense mobilization of stored energy rather than slow, incremental cell division. Unlike trees which broaden their trunks annually, a bamboo shoot emerges from the earth ready to extend to its full diameter immediately. The growth occurs through rapid elongation of specialized cells along the stalk, pushing upward with concentrated force driven by internal water pressure and nutrient density. This ascent is purely kinetic. There is no sound of straining, no creak of joints, only the continuous, quiet separation of the nodes as the stalk unrolls its stored potential against the sky. If one were to sit beside a fast-growing culm and watch the movement over hours, the change would be subtle, imperceptible in any single moment, yet profoundly visible over a short period. The plant seems to defy the ordinary limits of growth, an expression of focused ambition channeled through organic chemistry and the efficient use of hydrostatic force. This speedy vertical journey is a quiet testament to biological potential, a powerful demonstration that even the fastest processes in nature occur within a frame of absolute silence and unwavering momentum, pushing ever higher toward the gentle, drifting clouds. 28. Epiphytes, like air plants, float gently on branches, drawing moisture directly from the humid air without needing deep roots. These fascinating plants exist in a state of suspended reliance, choosing the canopy of the forest as their permanent aerial home, thus avoiding the competition for light and nutrients on the busy forest floor. Their lack of traditional soil-seeking roots allows them to cling lightly to the rough bark of host trees, relying solely on specialized structures known as trichomes. Tiny, often fuzzy, silver-colored scales covering their leaves. These trichomes function as highly effective microscopic collectors, drawing minute water molecules and dissolved mineral nutrients directly from the heavy humidity, mist, and dew that perpetually drifts through the rainforest air. The epiphytes are masters of passive absorption, patiently waiting for the atmosphere to deliver sustenance, never needing to aggressively seek it out beneath the earth. They do not parasitize their hosts. Their relationship is one of simple perching and peaceful coexistence, using the tree only for physical elevation and support. They embody a gentle freedom, their entire life sustained by the soft, continuous breath of the surrounding environment, drifting gently above the ground, wholly dependent on the slow, reliable cycle of aerial moisture condensation and dispersal, perpetually calm in their quiet, elevated sanctuary. 29. The tiny hairs on a lamb's ear plant feel incredibly soft, offering a tactile sensation of natural, calming velvet. This distinctive softness is not merely a pleasant sensory experience. It is an important biological adaptation, engineered for survival in warmer climates. The plant's leaves are densely covered with countless fine, minute hairs called trichomes, giving them their characteristic silver-gray hue and downy texture. These trichomes serve multiple essential functions, working together to protect the plant from harsh environmental stresses. Firstly, the dense hair acts like a tiny thermal blanket, trapping a layer of still, humid air close to the leaf surface, which minimizes the rate of water loss through transpiration during hot, dry days. Secondly, the light color and fuzzy surface effectively reflect a higher percentage of incoming solar radiation, shielding the delicate green chlorophyll below from excessive heat damage. The soft texture encourages a sense of stillness and slow contemplation, inviting a pause in the hurried pace of the day. To gently brush the surface of the lamb's ear is to interact directly with a sophisticated, self-cooling, natural textile, a quiet comfort created by evolutionary necessity, demonstrating how soft and gentle defenses can be the most effective mechanism for patient endurance and continued well-being against the pressures of the external world. 30. The sweet nectar within a flower acts as a quiet invitation, luring sleepy bees to continue the cycle of life across the meadow. Nectar is far more than a simple treat. It is a meticulously calibrated biological reward, a concentrated, sugary liquid produced by specialized glands called nectaries, placed strategically deep within the flower's structure. The composition of this nectar, its precise balance of sucrose, fructose, and glucose, is subtly tuned to appeal specifically to the particular pollinators the flower needs. For the slightly drowsy, fuzzy bee, the sugar content provides the necessary, immediate energy to fuel its continuous, diligent flight. The flower, in its silent wisdom, offers this bribe of high-quality fuel in exchange for the bee's unwitting assistance in transporting pollen, the dust of creation. The bee pushes softly into the bloom, driven by instinct and hunger, and the flower gently dusts its fuzzy legs and abdomen with pollen grains. When the bee inevitably visits the next bloom, seeking another drop of sweet sustenance, the cycle closes gently, ensuring the genetic exchange required for the continuation of the species. This quiet, ancient bargain is the foundation of countless ecosystems, a cooperative agreement sustained by sweet chemistry and the constant, gentle movement of sleepy insects across the sun-drenched, humming meadow. 31. Lichens are a quiet partnership between fungi and algae, forming slow-growing, colorful patches on old, undisturbed surfaces. This quiet agreement, known as symbiosis, speaks volumes about the gentle necessities of nature, where two distinct lives find a way to merge their fates upon the bare stone or the ancient bark. The fungal partner weaves its soft, thread-like hyphae into a protective canopy, a quiet shield against the harsh elements, anchoring the combined life form securely against the pull of gravity and the sweep of the passing breeze. Within this soft shelter, the algal cells, tiny green or blue-green processors, patiently capture the sunlight. They draw in the diffuse rays of the morning sun and the deepening gold of the afternoon, performing the silent, miraculous work of photosynthesis. This process creates the sugars that sustain the entire structure, a gentle transaction where the fungus provides structure and moisture, and the algae offers sustenance drawn from the light and air. Lichens measure time not in days or weeks, but in decades and centuries, growing at a pace so deliberate it often escapes human notice. They colonize the exposed granite faces of mountains where little else dares to root, relying solely on the moisture in the air and the minerals leached from the rock over immense stretches of geological time. They are the patient pioneers, slowly softening the edges of the world, quietly preparing the way for later, faster lives, existing as serene, colorful maps of deep time painted upon the oldest, most settled landscapes of the earth. Their existence is a gentle reminder that some of the most enduring relationships are those that unfold with the utmost slowness and the deepest mutual respect, clinging silently to the surfaces of the sleeping world. 32. The gentle rustling sound of aspen leaves, even in a faint breeze, is due to their flattened, flexible leaf stems. This delicate structure, known scientifically as the petiole, is engineered by nature for movement, acting almost like a universal joint for the leaf blade. Unlike the stout, round stems of many other trees, the aspen stem is laterally compressed, meaning it is thin and ribbon-like along the axis of the branch. This flat geometry allows the leaf blade to pivot and spin with minimal resistance, catching even the slightest whisper of air movement. When the wind moves over the forest canopy, creating eddies and small currents, the aspen leaves begin their soft, shimmering dance. This creates the distinctive, pervasive murmur, sometimes called the quaking sound, a sound so pervasive and soft it seems to be the very voice of the quiet forest atmosphere. The sound waves produced by these hundreds of tiny movements mingle and overlap, creating a sound profile that is more like continuous white noise than distinct, individual sounds, offering a deeply soothing auditory blanket. The constant motion serves a biological purpose. 2. Allowing sunlight to penetrate deeper into the canopy and helping the leaves shed excess heat during the warm midday hours. This gentle, shimmering respiration helps the tree maintain its internal balance, a steady, calm rhythm maintained by the delicate physics of air molecules moving across a perfectly shaped, flexible surface. It is a natural sonic engineering marvel, where fragility creates resilience and stillness is transformed into a continuous, calming wave of sound that drifts softly through the peaceful summer air. 33. Many bulbs rest completely underground during winter, holding the promise of colorful spring blooms in their silent, dormant heart. This underground existence is a period of patient, biological suspension, a strategic pause dictated by the planet's shifting orbit and the resulting seasonal dip in light and temperature. Within the bulb's layered, protective structure, energy is stored meticulously in the form of complex starches, accumulated patiently during the previous season's warmth. The embryonic flower, already fully formed in miniature, waits quietly at the very center, insulated from the freezing temperatures by the surrounding layers of fleshy scale leaves and the insulating blanket of the soil above. During this cool, dark interval, essential biochemical changes are occurring. A quiet preparation known as vernalization, which requires a sustained period of cold to unlock the genetic potential for blooming. The bulb monitors the slow descent of the soil temperature, resting deeply until the thermodynamics shift, and the slow, steady warming of the ground signals the nearing of the equinox. It is a profound demonstration of timing and patience, where the life cycle of the plant aligns perfectly with the vast, predictable cycles of the earth and the sun. There is no urgency in this darkness, only a deep, settled calm and an unwavering certainty that the light will return. The bulb rests, conserving every molecule of energy, ensuring that when the conditions of warmth and moisture finally align, it can summon forth the necessary cellular strength to push its green shoot slowly up through the settled earth and unfold its stored beauty into the renewed light of spring. 34. Mangroves send down prop roots into salty, tidal mud, stabilizing the soft coastal ecosystem with their intricate, patient network. These specialized roots, often arching gracefully from the trunk and major branches, serve multiple crucial functions in an environment that is constantly being pulled and shaped by the twin forces of lunar gravity and oceanic water flow. In the oxygen-poor mud where they anchor, these trees face a constant biological challenge, necessitating specialized breathing structures called pneumatophores, which project softly upwards from the mud like silent, sturdy snorkels to gather essential air during low tide. The prop roots themselves weave together into an almost impenetrable lattice, silently gripping the soft sediment and preventing its steady erosion by the rhythmic ingress and egress of the tidal waters. This root maze creates a buffer zone, slowing the flow of the water and allowing suspended particles and silt to settle gently, thus extending the land softly seaward over immense periods of time. The complex environment within these roots offers a quiet nursery for countless small, developing aquatic lives, protected from the strong currents of the open ocean. The mangroves are masters of osmoregulation, subtly managing the high salinity of the environment by selectively excluding salt at the root level or secreting excess salt through specialized leaf structures. A quiet, internal chemistry ensuring their survival. They stand as quiet guardians of the shoreline, enduring the predictable push and pull of the tides, stabilizing the delicate intersection between the terrestrial world and the vast, peaceful expanse of the ocean. 35. The movement of sunflower heads tracking the sun across the sky is a slow, steady demonstration of quiet heliotropism. This beautiful, predictable journey, following the sun's arc from the gentle rise in the east to the soft setting in the west, is not driven by conscious thought, but by the subtle, yet powerful influence of plant hormones. As the morning light begins to warm the field, light-sensitive cells detect the direction of the solar radiation. This triggers an uneven distribution of growth hormones, known as auxins, within the plant's stem below the developing flower head. The side of the stem furthest from the light lengthens ever so slightly faster, causing the head to bend gently toward the sun, maximizing its exposure to the energy-rich light that drives photosynthesis. During the quiet hours of the night when the light has faded entirely, a subtle rebalancing occurs, and the sunflower slowly, imperceptibly, resets its orientation, preparing itself to meet the eastern horizon again with the dawn. This nocturnal repositioning ensures that the plant is perfectly poised to capture the first rays of the rising sun, optimizing its light gathering throughout the entire day. While the young, developing heads display this movement dramatically, the mature sunflower, heavy with ripened seeds, eventually ceases this daily pilgrimage, settling into a permanent orientation, usually facing east. It is a subtle clockwork woven into the biology of the plant, linking its entire life process to the steady, predictable motion of our local star, a quiet, biological echo of the Earth's own graceful, steady rotation. 336. Pitcher plants quietly trap insects using slippery surfaces and sweet smells, demonstrating nature's patient, subtle predation. These specialized leaves, modified over countless generations into deep, silent cisterns, offer a gentle yet irreversible journey for any small, unwary visitor seeking a quiet sip of nectar. The lure begins with soft, sweet scents emanating from the rim, drawing the insect closer to the smooth, downward-facing hairs or waxes that line the opening. The surface just inside the rim is often covered with a microscopic coating that drastically reduces friction, making purchase impossible for the tiny claws and feet of the navigating insect. This structure ensures a gentle, inevitable slide down into the depths of the pitcher, where the light fades and the atmosphere becomes thick with digestive fluid. These fluids, containing specialized enzymes, slowly and patiently break down the soft tissues of the captured insects. This process is essential because the pitcher plant typically thrives in nutrient-poor environments, particularly soils that lack essential nitrogen, a vital building block for proteins and growth. The capture and subsequent digestion are conducted with the utmost stillness and biological calm, a silent, slow transaction that supplements the energy the plant gathers through traditional photosynthesis. The pitcher plant does not stalk or leap. It merely waits, a perfect, serene vessel designed to integrate the necessary nutrients into its slow, steady growth cycle, existing as a quiet, stationary masterpiece of patient biological engineering within the peaceful, sunlit bog. 37. Some ancient olive trees have witnessed millennia, their gnarled trunks symbolizing silent endurance and peaceful longevity. These venerable trees stand as living monuments to the slow passage of time, their massive, twisted trunks recording centuries of changing climates, quiet human history, and cyclical growth in their dense, slow-accumulating wood. The deep, convoluted ridges and valleys of the bark are not scars of conflict, but the steady manifestation of quiet adaptation, allowing the tree to shed bark and renew its protective outer layer over vast stretches of time. Their deep root systems anchor them with extraordinary tenacity into the often thin, rocky Mediterranean soil, providing stable purchase against the occasional harsh winds, and allowing them to efficiently access deep reservoirs of ground moisture, enabling their unparalleled longevity. The slow, dense wood grain grows incrementally year after year, a silent, internal calendar of drought and plentiful rain. To stand beneath the canopy of such an ancient tree is to feel a profound sense of temporal stillness, where the frantic rush of human life slows to the deep, steady rhythm of natural cycles. The continuous renewal of the olive, which can often sprout new shoots from the root crown, even if the main trunk is damaged or dies, symbolizes an enduring resilience that requires no dramatic intervention, only patience and steady adaptation. They offer their fruit with quiet generosity season after season, linking the ancient past to the peaceful present, standing calmly as silent, massive witnesses to the ebb and flow of peaceful civilizations, rooted deeply in the sleeping earth. 38. The papery skins protecting tree buds throughout the winter slowly peel away when the promise of spring warmth finally arrives. These protective outer scales, often tough and slightly sticky with sealing resins, served as a crucial barrier, shielding the delicate embryonic leaves and flowers nested within from the desiccating winds and the profound cold of the dormancy period. The tree, sensing the lengthening daylight hours and the slow, consistent rise in ambient temperature, initiates a complex, internal chemical signal. Water begins to flow more readily through the xylem channels, moving up from the roots and increasing the turgor pressure within the tightly wrapped bud. Simultaneously, hormonal shifts trigger cell expansion and division within the protected interior. This internal swelling gently pressures the stiff, overlapping scales from within. The shift is not sudden or explosive. It is a slow, gradual unfolding, a quiet relinquishing of the winter armor. The scales, having perfectly fulfilled their duty of protection against the thermodynamic challenges of cold survival, begin to loosen their grip. They dry and curl slightly, yielding their hold on the expanding life they have guarded, falling away gently to become a light, soft layer of mulch upon the forest floor. This quiet, organic shedding reveals the first fresh, tender green or muted pink tips of the emerging leaves, ready to capture the strengthening spring sunlight and begin the vital work of photosynthesis, a peaceful, synchronized emergence dictated by the unwavering cycles of solar energy return. 39. When you walk through a quiet pine forest, the soft needles cushion your steps, muffling sound into a peaceful hush. The acoustic properties of the forest floor, covered by this thick, resilient layer of slowly decaying needles, are profoundly calming. Each fallen needle, slightly curved and overlapping, acts as a tiny, natural acoustic absorber, trapping and dissipating sound waves rather than reflecting them back. This organic carpet, known as duff, settles deeply, creating a yielding, soft surface that deadens the impact of footsteps, erasing the sharp staccato sounds of walking on hard ground. Above this soft floor, the dense canopy of the pines, characterized by its long, clustered needles, contributes further to the overall tranquility. The needles act as miniature baffles, catching and dispersing wind currents and softening any sound that attempts to travel vertically, ensuring that the air within the forest remains settled and quiet. Even the softest sounds, like the gentle drip of moisture or the quiet call of a passing bird, are absorbed into the pervasive calm, losing their harsh edges. The air itself seems heavier and more settled in this quiet space, smelling faintly of the resin and the soft decomposition of the organic matter. This natural sound dampening system encourages a sense of slow, deliberate movement and reflection, providing an almost complete separation from the sudden, sharp noises of the world outside, inviting the mind to settle into the deep, quiet rhythm of the ancient trees. 40. The delicate fragrance of lavender promotes a deep sense of calm, settling the mind before a quiet, restful slumber. The gentle effectiveness of this ancient aromatic oil lies in its chemistry, specifically the presence of compounds like linalool and linaloyl acetate, which are released slowly into the air from the tiny glands found on the lavender flower's soft petals. When these fragrant molecules drift gently into the nasal cavity, they are detected by the olfactory receptors, triggering immediate signals that travel directly to the limbic system of the brain, the ancient center responsible for emotion and memory. More specifically, these chemical messages quietly influence the central nervous system, enhancing the activity of GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid receptors. GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain, functioning as a natural brake, slowing down nerve activity and reducing states of anxiety and overstimulation. The soft, herbal scent thus initiates a gentle, internal deceleration, easing the frantic pace of waking thoughts and smoothing the transition towards sleep. This physiological response is entirely calm and non-invasive, a subtle persuasion toward tranquility that mimics the natural slowing down of the body during the approach of night. To breathe in the scent of lavender is to signal to the deep, settled parts of the brain that it is safe to rest, allowing the muscles to relax and the conscious mind to drift softly away from the sharpness of the day, sinking gently into the pervasive, comforting hush that promises deep, restorative slumber. 41. Many legumes enrich the soil by hosting nitrogen-fixing bacteria in small, silent nodules along their root systems. The world beneath the soil is a realm of quiet, essential chemistry, often overlooked by the rushing cycles of life above the surface. Here, the roots of legumes extend themselves into the darkness, not merely seeking water and structural support, but engaging in one of nature's most ancient and powerful partnerships. Along these gentle, fibrous strands, small, rounded nodules form, housing colonies of specialized bacteria known as rhizobia. This cooperative dwelling is a testament to shared existence, where the plant offers shelter and sustenance, and the microscopic tenant performs a monumental task, pulling the vast, inert nitrogen gas directly from the surrounding air pockets in the soil and transforming it into usable compounds like ammonia. Nitrogen, the very building block of proteins and DNA, floats abundantly, making up most of the atmosphere above, yet it is chemically reluctant, refusing to easily combine with other elements. The rhizobia, through quiet biological pathways requiring precise enzymatic action, break this powerful triple bond, slowly releasing the newly fixed nitrogen into the plant system. When the legume eventually completes its own cycle and returns its substance to the earth, these enriched compounds remain, a silent gift of fertility passed on to the soil itself, nourishing the subsequent crops that follow. This slow, steady process ensures a perpetual cycle of enrichment, a quiet foundational strength that minimizes the need for external interference, allowing the earth to breathe deeply and slowly in sustained, internal harmony, always gathering strength for the coming season in the soft darkness below the surface where the roots wait patiently. The process demands no sudden movements, only the steady respiration of tiny life forms conducting their essential, microscopic labor, stabilizing the very foundation of the visible world. 42. The veins across a leaf surface act as silent, intricate channels, perfectly distributing water and nutrients throughout the structure. Consider the expanse of a single leaf, held out calmly to absorb the light of the sun, and observe the delicate, patterned network that spans its surface, a tapestry of finely tuned circulatory pathways. These veins, often overlooked in the rush to appreciate the vibrant green, represent a marvel of biological engineering, acting as the quiet, vital arteries and capillaries of the plant structure. Within their defined boundaries, two major transport systems operate continuously and without sound. The xylem carries water, drawn upward from the deep roots against the relentless pull of gravity through the slow, steady force of cohesion and transpiration, a gentle, molecular lift that defies the descent. This essential moisture spreads outwards, cooling the leaf and providing the medium necessary for the grand process of photosynthesis. Simultaneously, the phloem transports the sugars, the gentle, golden energy manufactured in the sun-drenched cells, moving them silently towards every point of need, down into the stems, the roots, and towards storage areas for future growth. The smallest tributaries of these veins ensure that no single cell is left isolated, creating a truly unified structure where resources are shared equitably and slowly across the entire broad plain. This intricate distribution map is fixed and perfect, mapping the fate of every water molecule and every carbohydrate particle, ensuring structural integrity and efficiency. The flow is never hurried, merely persistent, dictated by the slow pressure changes and the quiet demands of respiration, allowing the leaf to maintain its perfect, quiet stance throughout the long day, absorbing the world in slow motion and sending nourishment throughout its form. 43. The quiet strength of climbing ivy can slowly envelop old stone walls, lending a romantic, sleeping beauty to the architecture. There is a powerful patience inherent in the nature of climbing ivy, a quiet, non-violent persistence that operates on timescales far slower than human observation. When it encounters the hard, cool surface of an ancient stone wall or the rough texture of mortar, the ivy begins its deliberate, upward ascent. It does not force its way but seeks purchase through specialized aerial roots and small, adhesive pads, releasing chemical compounds that create a gentle but unyielding bond with the rough surface. Each tiny hold is secured slowly, centimeter by gentle centimeter, creating an increasingly expansive network that eventually covers and softens the stark edges of the man-made structure. The greenery blankets the hard stone, absorbing the harshness of the direct sun and offering a protective layer that regulates temperature swings, creating a cooler microclimate near the surface. Over decades, the ivy establishes itself as a second skin, blurring the line between architecture and nature, turning the functional severity of the wall into something resembling a sleeping monument, draped in a living, protective quilt. This transformation speaks to the slow, relentless power of biology against the seemingly permanent strength of rock and concrete. It is a quiet narrative of integration, where the history contained within the stones is gently embraced by the enduring, seasonal cycles of the vine. The ivy offers silence, an enveloping stillness that absorbs the sound of the wind and the footsteps of time, holding the past gently within its green embrace, lending an air of deep, settled, and undisturbed repose to the structure it inhabits. 44. Desert wildflowers often have thick, waxy coatings to reduce water loss, helping them maintain their cool moisture in the heat. In the immense, shimmering stillness of the desert landscape, where the sun reigns supreme and the air is thin and thirsty, plant life must execute molecular strategy with extreme precision. The delicate desert wildflower, though seemingly fragile, possesses hidden resilience, particularly evident in the specialized structure of its epidermal layer. Many of these plants develop a remarkably thick, non-living coating called the cuticle, which is heavily infused with waxy compounds. This wax acts as a nearly impermeable barrier, creating a seal against the relentless forces of evaporation. Water molecules within the plant, attempting to escape into the drier atmosphere through the process of transpiration, are quietly intercepted and conserved by this perfect, microscopic shield. This waxy coating serves a dual purpose. It minimizes internal water loss, ensuring the plant's survival during prolonged dry spells, and it often creates a slightly reflective surface that gently deflects intense solar radiation. The plant does not fight the heat directly, but rather manages its internal resources with meticulous care, maintaining a cool, moist core even as the temperature outside soars. This adaptation allows the plant to wait patiently for the rare, precious rainfall, holding its existence suspended in quiet equilibrium, knowing that the conservation of every molecule is paramount. This specialized surface ensures a slow, measured rate of life, a quiet dedication to persistence, turning the desert environment from an instant threat into a challenge managed through silent, brilliant biological physics. The waxy surface shines softly, a testament to efficiency in a world demanding absolute resourcefulness. 45. Maple seeds spin gently like miniature helicopters as they fall, maximizing their quiet dispersal away from the parent tree. Observe the quiet descent of the maple seed, known botanically as a samara, and witness a perfect demonstration of aerodynamic efficiency achieved through simple, natural design. Attached to its small, heavy seed kernel is a thin, asymmetrical wing, structured precisely to interact with the resistance of the air. As the seed detaches from the branch high above, gravity begins its slow pull, but the design initiates a counter-movement, a controlled, quiet rotation. This spinning motion, mimicking the rotor of a helicopter, creates lift and drag forces that dramatically slow the speed of the fall, increasing the duration of its journey through the air. The increased airtime allows even the gentlest breeze to catch the samara, carrying it horizontally far away from the heavy shade and resource competition of the parent tree. The spiral descent is not haphazard. It is a meticulously governed fall, maximizing the potential distance of dispersal in a smooth, quiet manner. The physics involved are elegant and simple, balancing the downward momentum with the rotational drag to achieve a remarkably low terminal velocity. Each seed is given its best chance at finding a clear patch of open earth and sunlight, traveling on currents of air that are otherwise imperceptible. The sound of their descent is merely a soft, almost imperceptible whirring, a mechanical whisper against the stillness of the autumn woods, ensuring the next generation is scattered widely and without urgency, relying on the unseen forces of the atmosphere to complete its fundamental mission. 46. The smooth, silver-gray trunk of the beech tree stands cool to the touch, reflecting soft light in the dense woods. The European beech, a stalwart of the quiet, established forest, possesses a signature characteristic that speaks to deep endurance and stability. Its bark, unlike the deeply furrowed, rough, and dark covering of many other deciduous trees, the beech trunk presents a surface that is remarkably smooth and uniformly silver-gray, possessing an almost metallic sheen in the subdued light. This texture and coloration are not accidental. They play a role in the tree's interaction with its environment. The pale, smooth surface gently reflects ambient light filtering down through the dense canopy, preventing excessive heat absorption, which is particularly beneficial for the long, slow life cycle of the tree. When one places a hand upon this cool expanse, one feels the immediate contrast with the warmer forest air, sensing the quiet stability maintained within the massive woody structure. The relative thinness and smoothness of the bark require the beech to live in sheltered conditions, typically within the protection of a larger forest community, where external damage is less likely. This uniform grayness provides a canvas for the slow march of time, often becoming gently textured with soft green mosses and subtle lichens that adhere smoothly to its flawless surface. The visual effect is one of quiet permanence, standing like a soft, polished column supporting the sky, its color perfectly calibrated to absorb and diffuse the soft, dappled sunlight, contributing to the deep, settled calm of the ancient woods where shadows lengthen slowly and time seems to move with deliberate, hushed reverence. 47. Underneath a lush lawn, the dense, fibrous roots of the grass weave together in a strong, supporting mat that holds the earth beneath the manicured surface of a green lawn lies a hidden world of industrious, continuous labor, centered around the intricate architecture of the grass root system. While the visible blades above perform the quiet work of photosynthesis, capturing sunlight and carbon dioxide, the roots below execute the essential task of stabilizing the very ground. These roots are primarily fine and fibrous, extending outwards and downwards in vast numbers, intertwining and interlocking with the roots of neighboring plants. The density of this subsurface network is extraordinary, forming a massive, continuous mat that grips the soil particles with surprising strength. This web provides a foundational stability that resists the disruptive forces of wind, heavy rain, and erosion. When water permeates the soil, this fibrous mat acts like a sponge, holding moisture gently within its structure, ensuring that the water remains available for slow absorption rather than rushing away. The ceaseless growth and occasional dieback of these fine roots also contribute organic matter deep into the soil profile, creating microchannels for aeration and improving the overall health and lightness of the earth. This quiet, perpetual weaving action turns loose soil into a coherent, resilient structure, a silent foundation for all the life that moves across the surface. It is a slow, enduring act of subterranean engineering, performed without complaint or fanfare, simply upholding the earth in a strong, supportive embrace, ensuring that the surface remains calm, secure, and ready to meet the demands of every gentle step and seasonal change. 48. The slow crystallization of dewdrops clinging to a spiderweb on a plant stem creates temporary, shimmering jewels at dawn. As the air cools deeply in the hours before the sunrise, the silent thermodynamics of the night begin to manifest in beautiful, temporary forms. Water vapor, suspended invisibly in the air, meets surfaces that have chilled below the dew point, gathering softly through condensation. When this occurs upon the fine, silken strands of a spiderweb stretched delicately between the leaves of a plant stem, the effect is transformed. The forces of surface tension cause the moisture to gather into perfect, spherical droplets, which adhere to the fine silk. As the ambient temperature continues its gentle decline towards its minimum, these liquid spheres begin the process of crystallization, turning the clear water into delicate, temporary ice. Each tiny dewdrop becomes a minute prism, holding the potential to scatter and reflect the very first tentative rays of the rising sun. This array of shimmering jewels is a moment of fragile perfection, existing only for the brief transition between deep night and full morning. The weight of these frozen spheres slightly tugs the web into gentle arcs, displaying the tensile strength of the silk against the quiet force of gravity and the crystal weight. This momentary spectacle speaks to the quiet interaction of temperature, water, and geometry, a perfect, silent, and cold formation that waits patiently for the sun's warmth to dissolve the enchantment, returning the water vapor softly back to the atmosphere from which it quietly came. 49. Some plants release defensive chemical compounds into the air, quietly signaling danger to their neighbors across the field. The plant world utilizes a language that is entirely silent and diffusive, relying on the movement of molecules rather than the vibration of air. When a plant experiences stress, perhaps through damage inflicted by an insect or a sudden, localized environmental shift, it often initiates a quiet, protective communication system. Specialized cells release volatile organic compounds, VOCs, tiny, aromatic molecules into the surrounding air. These compounds drift slowly across the field, carried by the softest of breezes and obeying the physics of molecular diffusion. Neighboring plants possess receptors, capable of recognizing the precise chemical signature of distress carried on the current. This silent warning alerts them to the potential threat before the attacker has physically reached their leaves. In response, the receiving plants often begin their own internal, quiet preparation. They may increase the production of defensive toxins, toughen their cell walls, or release their own counter-signaling agents. This biochemical conversation is a demonstration of collective defense, a sharing of critical information that maintains the safety of the entire plant community without uttering a single sound. It is a slow, methodical transfer of data, happening far below the level of human perception, underscoring the deep interconnectedness of life in the field, where quiet, molecular foresight dictates survival and communal well-being through the unseen transmission of chemical warnings. 50. Seaweed drifts gently in the ocean currents, providing sheltered, quiet nurseries for tiny marine creatures resting below the waves. In the vast, cool depth where sunlight softens into filtered blues and greens, the large, undulating fronds of seaweed, kelp, macroalgae, and sargassum perform a quiet, essential service. Anchored lightly or drifting in great, slow-moving rafts, these plant structures are subject to the endless, gentle pull and push of the ocean currents. Their movement is fluid and hypnotic, a silent, slow dance that creates a sheltered, three-dimensional landscape beneath the surface chaos of the waves. Within the dense, layered structure of the seaweed fronds, the water movement is calmed, filtering the harsh energy of the current and creating pockets of stillness. These sheltered zones become quiet nurseries for the smallest inhabitants of the marine world. Tiny fish larvae, delicate plankton, and juvenile crustaceans find refuge here, protected from the strong, open currents and hidden from larger, faster predators. The seaweed itself provides not only structure but a constant, slow release of nutrients and oxygen into the immediate surrounding water, sustaining the resting inhabitants. This ecosystem exists in a state of quiet equilibrium, where life is nurtured through the constant, slow motion of the supporting flora. The soft resistance of the fronds against the water provides a stable, temporary home, a floating cradle where new life can gently grow and mature, moving softly with the rhythm of the tide, unaware of the vastness of the ocean just beyond the protective, swaying boundary of the green and brown canopy. 51. The subtle color changes in petals often act as quiet guides, directing pollinators toward the flower's center with precision. This intricate system relies upon a spectrum of light that human eyes cannot fully perceive, existing in the ultraviolet range, where the world unfolds in patterns of deep contrast for the specialized vision of insects like the humble bee. A flower that appears uniformly yellow or white to us may reveal distinct, targeted markings under UV light, sometimes looking like a perfect bull's or delicate radiating lines, all pointing toward the sweet reward of nectar waiting deep within the floral structure. This silent language of light ensures the efficiency of pollination, a transactional dance of energy exchange essential for both plant and insect survival across landscapes defined by slow, steady biological cycles. The pigments within the petal cells absorb and reflect light in specific ways, carefully engineered over eons of coevolution, turning the surfaces into quiet landing strips marked with cosmic clarity. As the bee approaches, its compound eyes register the ultraviolet signals, guiding its flight path with unwavering certainty toward the reproductive heart of the bloom, ensuring that the tiny pollen granules are precisely brushed onto its fuzzy body, ready for transport to the next receiving flower. It is a communication carried not by sound or movement, but purely by the physics of reflected light and the molecular composition of the flower's tissue. A quiet agreement between species carried out countless times beneath the slow drift of the sun through the sky, upholding the vast, gentle framework of the botanical world. The flower offers a silent invitation, and the bee accepts the terms in a continuous, soft partnership. 52. The enormous leaves of the giant water lily quietly float across the surface, casting large, peaceful shadows on the water beneath. These colossal structures, sometimes spanning several meters in diameter, represent a marvel of natural engineering, balancing immense scale with remarkable lightness. The underside of the leaf is a complex network of deep, sturdy ribs, filled with air pockets that grant the structure incredible buoyancy, allowing the vast expanse of the photosynthetic surface to rest effortlessly upon the liquid plane. Beneath the surface, these sturdy ribs anchor the leaf against the gentle push of the water currents, ensuring the structure maintains its territorial claim on the quiet pond. As sunlight filters down through the upper atmosphere, it strikes the vast green expanse, fueling the slow process of photosynthesis, while simultaneously creating a zone of quiet darkness directly below the floating disk. This deep shadow provides a cool, safe haven for small fish and aquatic larvae, shielding them from the intense solar energy and offering protection from predators searching from above. The water beneath the lily pad exists in a world of subdued light and steady temperature, a microclimate managed entirely by the slow, broad presence of the floating leaf above. The giant water lily is a master of surface tension and hydrostatic equilibrium, gently dominating the pondscape, demonstrating how quiet scale can restructure an entire environment, offering a vast, steady platform for the continuous cycles of life and nutrient exchange within the calm, reflecting waters. This slow, predictable presence defines the rhythm of the pond itself. 53. Plants adjust their internal pressure, or turgor, to remain upright, a silent, hydraulic balancing act against gravity's pull. Turgor pressure is essentially the water pressure within the plant cells, generated by the steady, quiet movement of water molecules moving inward through osmosis, pushing the cellular membrane firmly against the rigid cellulose cell wall. This subtle, continuous tension is what gives non-woody plants their firmness and structure, allowing a delicate stem to stand tall and leaves to spread wide, defying the constant downward force of Earth's gravity. When a plant receives ample water, the cells swell just slightly, achieving maximal turgidity, resulting in a crisp, vibrant posture. If water availability declines, the pressure gently drops, and the plant begins to experience a quiet, slow wilting, a visible sign that the hydraulic support system is temporarily diminished. This remarkable mechanism operates without sound or complex mechanical parts, relying only on the basic principles of physics and water potential. It is a tireless, microscopic effort carried out by billions of cells working in perfect, silent coordination, ensuring that the plant can stretch its leaves toward the light source, optimizing the energy capture necessary for its long, peaceful existence. This quiet regulation of internal water pressure is a constant negotiation with the environment, a gentle internal pulse that dictates the plant's structural integrity, allowing it to stand straight and capture the energy that flows from the distant sun, sustaining the steady rhythm of growth and stillness. 54. The bark of the cork oak can be peeled away without harming the tree, allowing for a quiet, renewable harvest every 9 years. This process relies upon the tree's unique biological capacity to regenerate its outer layer, a deep layer of suberin-rich tissue designed to protect the vital inner cambium and phloem. The harvest is performed gently by skilled workers who use specialized axes to carefully remove the thick, insulating bark, taking great care not to breach the tender living layers beneath. Once the bark is stripped, the exposed inner trunk reveals a soft, reddish-brown hue that slowly darkens as it develops a new layer of protective material over the course of nearly a decade. This sustainable cycle ensures the longevity of the tree, which can live for hundreds of years, providing a continuous, gentle flow of resources across generations. The cork oak stands as a quiet testament to slow, cyclical economy, where human need aligns perfectly with natural regrowth rates. Throughout the 9 years between harvests, the tree quietly performs its work, absorbing carbon dioxide and providing habitat, while its thick, regenerating coat shields it from extreme temperatures and the threat of wildfires, acting as a natural fire retardant layer. This quiet, measured pace of regrowth underscores the importance of patience in sustainable agriculture, respecting the slow biological clock of the tree, and ensuring that the harvest is merely a gentle interruption in its long, steady life cycle, allowing it to continue its quiet contribution to the surrounding ecosystem without stress or exhaustion. 55. Many mountain flowers grow low to the ground, huddling together for protection against the fierce, cold winds of high altitudes. This low stature is a vital adaptation to the relentless energy and desiccating effects of alpine weather systems, where the thin air offers little thermal insulation. By remaining close to the rocky soil, these hardy plants take advantage of the boundary layer, a quiet zone of slightly warmer, less turbulent air that is held directly against the Earth's surface, providing a critical thermal blanket. The dense, cushion-like forms they often adopt further reduce the surface area exposed to the passing wind, minimizing the stressful loss of precious moisture through evapotranspiration in the dry atmosphere. The growing season high on the slopes is brief and intense, forcing these quiet blooms to complete their reproductive cycles quickly, often relying on small, concentrated bursts of heat absorption from the direct, unfiltered sunlight. Their leaves are often small, sometimes hairy or waxy, further minimizing water loss in the harsh, dry environment. This close, cooperative growth, where individual plants lean into each other for collective shelter, demonstrates a quiet, communal survival strategy, an unassuming defiance against the powerful forces of nature. They root themselves firmly into the shallow, rocky substrate, holding fast against the currents of air and the slow erosion of the peaks, quietly confirming their endurance in a landscape defined by extremes, waiting patiently for the short, vivid burst of summer life before retreating back into the icy stillness of the long alpine winter sleep. 56. The quiet growth rings within a tree trunk tell the slow, detailed story of every year, noting droughts and abundant rainfall. This silent record, known scientifically as dendrochronology, is a chronological archive of environmental history preserved in the steady accumulation of xylem tissue. Each year, the tree lays down two distinct bands. The lighter, wider earlywood formed during the rapid, nutrient-rich growth of spring, followed by the darker, denser latewood formed slowly during the less active summer months. The width of these combined rings speaks volumes about the climate conditions during that specific annual cycle. A very narrow ring indicates a period of stress, perhaps a severe drought or unusually cold spring, slowing the tree's quiet structural expansion. Conversely, a wide, generously padded ring denotes a year of plentiful moisture and ideal growing temperatures. When a tree lives for centuries, its trunk becomes a continuous, unbiased timeline, allowing scientists to correlate historical climate events, such as major volcanic eruptions that cooled the atmosphere or protracted periods of unusually heavy precipitation, with the precise structural changes preserved in the wood fibers. This internal clock ticks steadily, recording the slow passage of time and the gentle fluctuations of the planet's atmospheric cycles, offering a deep and tangible connection to the past. The reading of these rings is a quiet, meditative process, unfolding the slow autobiography of the ancient organism, year by steady year, revealing the long, continuous narrative of climatic stability and quiet change across the silent forest landscape. 57. In the darkness, the faint, earthy smell of damp humus rises gently from the forest floor, a scent of rich, fertile decay. This quiet aroma is carried upward by molecules of geosmin, a volatile organic compound produced by various species of soil bacteria, most notably certain actinomycetes, as they silently engage in the perpetual work of breaking down leaf litter and dead wood. Humus itself is the dark, stable, fully decomposed organic matter, acting as the quiet reservoir for essential nutrients and the structure for healthy soil aeration. When the forest floor is dampened by a gentle rain or the soft descent of evening dew, the water displaces the gases trapped within the microscopic pores of the soil, releasing this characteristic, deep, nourishing fragrance into the still, cool air. It is the scent of deep biological recycling, a continuous process where the remnants of the past season are quietly transformed into the sustenance for the future growth. The smell is profound and comforting, indicating a healthy, active ecosystem where life and death are intertwined in a smooth, quiet cycle of nutrient transfer. Beneath the thick canopy, the soil perpetually breathes, emitting this soft, rich perfume that speaks not of finality, but of perpetual renewal and the slow, steady transformation of matter, reminding us that even in the deepest darkness, unseen, foundational work is always underway, preparing the earth for the quiet emergence of new life under the slowly turning phases of the moon. 58. Aquatic kelp forests provide silent, vertically flowing habitats, offering immense underwater structure and safe havens. These immense brown algae, anchored firmly to the rocky seabed by root-like holdfasts, stretch their long, ribbon-like stipes upward toward the filtered sunlight near the ocean's surface, creating dense, three-dimensional ecosystems. Unlike terrestrial trees that rely on rigid wood for support, kelp maintains its vertical reach primarily through pneumatocysts, small, gas-filled bladders that provide buoyancy, allowing the fronds to gently sway with the rhythmic pulse of the ocean currents. This constant, gentle motion, driven by the physics of tidal flow, contributes to the overall tranquility of the underwater landscape. These vertical columns of life filter and slow the passing water, reducing the energy of strong currents and creating calmer zones where small fish and invertebrates can thrive and hide from larger, faster predators. The canopy formed by the uppermost blades provides vital shading, modulating the light levels that reach the sea floor, much like a dense woodland roof modifies the forest floor below. The sheer volume of biomass in a thriving kelp forest represents a significant reservoir of stored solar energy, feeding complex food webs and stabilizing coastal chemistry through vast, quiet photosynthesis. They are the great architects of the cold, shallow seas, providing foundational structure, supporting biological diversity, and performing their essential ecological duties in the deep, silent blue, responding only to the slow, steady push and pull of the terrestrial gravity and the distant lunar orbit. 59. Some plants possess circadian rhythms, internal biological clocks that regulate their quiet, gentle activities based on light cycles. These internal timers, which operate on an approximately 24-hour cycle, allow plants to anticipate the rising and setting of the sun, optimizing their energy capture and protection mechanisms long before the environmental cue is actually received. For instance, certain leaves may begin to angle themselves toward the east, preparing for the first light of dawn hours before the sun crests the horizon, ensuring immediate maximum photosynthetic efficiency. Conversely, they might quietly fold inward or drop their petals precisely at twilight, conserving energy and protecting their delicate reproductive structures from the cool night air. This clockwork precision is managed at the molecular level through complex feedback loops involving specific proteins, whose concentrations rise and fall rhythmically throughout the day and night. These quiet oscillations are synchronized primarily by exposure to light, yet the rhythm persists even if the plant is placed in constant darkness, demonstrating its truly internal origin, a deep connection to the Earth's slow, steady rotation. This internal temporal awareness ensures that fundamental processes like respiration, fragrance emission, and the opening of stomata, the pores used for gas exchange, are perfectly synchronized with the planet's astronomical cycles, ensuring the plant's quiet survival and reproductive success by living in perfect, predictable harmony with the slow, inevitable march of time across the cosmos. 60. A single large oak tree can absorb tons of carbon dioxide over its lifespan, quietly working to cleanse and balance the atmosphere. This extraordinary feat is accomplished through the continuous, slow process of photosynthesis, where the tree draws gaseous carbon dioxide molecules from the surrounding air through tiny openings in its leaves. Inside the leaf cells, using the captured energy of sunlight, the plant performs a quiet chemical transformation, separating the carbon atom from the oxygen atoms. The oxygen is gently released back into the atmosphere, while the carbon is incorporated into complex sugar molecules, which are then used to build the tree's structure. Its massive trunk, its sturdy branches, and its extensive root system. Over centuries, the carbon accumulates, effectively locking away massive quantities of atmospheric carbon in the dense, silent wood, a process known as carbon sequestration. A mature oak, standing tall for hundreds of years, acts as a colossal, natural carbon repository, providing a long-term, stable solution to balancing planetary chemistry. Its work is tireless, measured, and entirely silent, contributing to the quiet regulation of global climate systems simply by existing and growing slowly year after year beneath the steady gaze of the sun. The sheer volume and density of the mature oak represent a cumulative history of captured carbon, a quiet monument to the Earth's natural capacity for self-regulation, ensuring the atmosphere remains hospitable for the long, gentle continuation of terrestrial life. 61. The soft, luminous glow of bioluminescent fungi drifts quietly through the deep darkness of the forest floor, acting as gentle, natural beacons for any creature that moves slowly through the night. This quiet illumination is not driven by heat, but by a subtle, cool chemical reaction known as chemiluminescence, where the slow, steady interaction of molecular compounds releases pure light energy instead of thermal energy. It is a soft scientific secret, whispered by the mycelial networks that spread unseen beneath the damp earth, drawing sustenance from the slow decomposition of wood and leaf litter. The fungi, often species of Mycena or Panellus, utilize an enzyme called luciferase working upon a substrate, luciferin, to produce this steady, pale green or blue hue. Imagine the immense quietness required for such a subtle light to become noticeable. A light so gentle it barely disturbs the shadow, yet strong enough to define the outline of a fallen log or the slow curve of a mossy root. This spectral presence suggests the tireless, invisible work of nature's recyclers, transforming the remnants of past life into a soft, steady energy signal. It is a slow, pulsing rhythm that mirrors the quiet rotation of the distant stars, providing a silent, ethereal guide. Many forests around the world hold this gentle, glowing secret, a slow promise that even in the deepest, darkest hour, there is always a source of quiet, enduring light that emerges from the very processes of decay and renewal, sustaining the quiet patience of the woodland cycles until the slow return of dawn. 62. The tendrils of the humble pea plant move with an almost imperceptible slowness, reaching out into the quiet air, conducting a gentle, methodical search for stable support. This quiet quest is driven by thigmotropism, the remarkable biological response to physical touch. When the delicate tip of the tendril brushes against a stationary object, perhaps a slender stalk of grass or a steady wooden trellis, it registers this contact not instantly, but through a slow, quiet cellular signal. This signal triggers differential growth. The cells on the side of the tendril touching the support slowly slow their rate of elongation, while the cells on the opposing, outer side continue to lengthen steadily. This difference in expansion causes the tendril to curve with quiet determination, wrapping itself around the support structure in a tightening spiral that secures the vine against the gentle pull of gravity and the light movement of the air currents. The act of coiling is a study in quiet persistence, a slow, steady negotiation with the environment. It is a mechanical movement governed by molecular cues, establishing a long-term, stable connection that allows the weak stem to ascend toward the sun. This steady climb is necessary for efficient light harvesting, illustrating how a plant's sense of touch is transformed into a slow, deliberate movement that ensures survival, securing its future with a gentle, yet unbreakable, spiral grip that speaks of long, patient growth cycles. 63. Plant waxes, such as the widely studied carnauba derived from the leaves of the Brazilian palm, form an intricate, quiet protective layer, acting as a molecular shield against the constant demands of the environment. These waxes are composed of long chains of fatty acids and alcohols, forming highly stable, hydrophobic barriers that quietly repel water and moderate the fierce effects of solar radiation. Imagine this wax layer as a thin, silent coat of armor, applied molecule by the plant itself to minimize the relentless process of transpiration, where precious internal water is lost to the dry, demanding atmosphere. In climates characterized by intense heat and long hours of sunlight, this protective sheath slows the rate of evaporation to a quiet minimum, allowing the plant to conserve moisture with immense efficiency. The waxy surface gently reflects excess light, reducing the thermal load on the underlying photosynthetic cells, ensuring that the plant's internal machinery remains steady and cool. This silent, steady function demonstrates the elegant physics of nature's engineering, creating a durable, stable defense that persists through changing weather cycles. The carnauba palm, thriving in semi-arid zones, relies entirely on this quiet chemical defense to navigate months of drought, illustrating the quiet power of molecular organization to sustain life through long, dry seasons, preserving the steady internal rhythm necessary for survival. 64. The roots of the bamboo plant extend horizontally through the dark, cool earth in a quiet, methodical manner, forming vast, interconnected underground structures called rhizomes. These rhizomes move with a slow, powerful persistence, driven forward by the steady, unyielding pressure of cell expansion, creating a dense, interwoven network beneath the seemingly individual culms above. This subterranean web is the true identity of the bamboo grove, a unified entity linked by continuous living tissues that transfer water, nutrients, and subtle chemical signals across wide distances. The surface appearance of separate stalks is merely the visible expression of a single, sprawling organism, quietly sharing resources across the entire domain. The rhizomes spread with a deep, silent energy, anchoring the grove against the shifting earth and the strong winds of the atmosphere. Their movement is measured in slow, incremental thrusts into the surrounding soil, displacing particles and weaving a silent tapestry of connection that may extend for acres. This underground unity ensures that if one part of the grove encounters hardship, others can quietly contribute support, guaranteeing the steady resilience of the whole system. The methodical expansion of the bamboo root system is a quiet testament to the effectiveness of decentralized growth, building a collective strength through slow, persistent horizontal, spread beneath the patient supervision of the steady earth. 65. The life cycle of the quiet redwood, one of the most monumental living structures on Earth, begins with a tiny, inconspicuous seed, a vessel so small it seems impossible that it holds the blueprint for immense verticality. This diminutive beginning, often smaller than a grain of rice, contains the complete, detailed genetic instructions necessary to achieve heights exceeding 300 feet and to persist quietly through millennia. The seed embodies the profound contrast between initial scale and eventual destiny. When conditions are steadily right, a quiet combination of damp earth, filtered light, and consistent moisture, the slow process of germination begins. This tiny, vulnerable sprout must then embark on a quiet, centuries-long struggle against the persistent pull of gravity, relying on the physics of capillary action and the cohesion tension theory to lift vast quantities of water hundreds of feet skyward. The tree grows with an immense patience, adding rings year after year, each layer representing a quiet, steady measurement of elapsed time. The energy stored within the initial seed, combined with the slow, steady intake of carbon dioxide and sunlight, translates into the silent accumulation of massive woody tissue. This quiet unfolding of potential, from a barely noticeable speck to a towering entity that brushes the slow-moving fog layers, serves as a steady reminder that the most durable and majestic forms of life begin with the smallest, most unassuming and quiet origins, demanding only deep time and relentless patience to reach their eventual, lofty state. 66. Many plant species require a period of vernalization, a quiet, sustained exposure to cold temperatures, to trigger the necessary biochemical cascade that enables future flower production. This chilling requirement is essentially nature's timing mechanism, ensuring that the plant does not expend valuable energy and resources on reproduction prematurely during a brief, false warm spell in the autumn or early winter. The cold acts as a molecular key, slowly altering gene expression within the apical meristem, the growth point of the plant. During the quiet dormancy of winter, as the ground freezes softly and the air stills, the plant's internal clock is slowly calibrated. The sustained cold modifies proteins and suppresses certain inhibitors, shifting the plant's metabolic priorities from vegetative growth toward reproductive readiness. This process is silent and invisible, occurring at the molecular level with gentle precision. The plant waits patiently, holding its potential until it receives the steady, undeniable signal that the cold cycle has been adequately completed, assuring it that the long, dark season is truly over. Only after this quiet period of chilling is the plant biochemically prepared to sense the slow increase in spring daylight and warmth. Without vernalization, the plant often remains perpetually in a vegetative state, unable to complete its natural cycle. This requirement highlights the quiet wisdom of biological adaptation, demanding a patient, steady endurance of the cold before committing to the brilliant, fleeting display of flowers and the eventual renewal of seed production. 67. The soft interior pith of certain aquatic reeds, such as the European rush or juncus, was historically harvested and carefully prepared for use as lamp wicks, offering a slow, steady, and quiet source of domestic illumination throughout past centuries. This quiet utility relied entirely upon the plant's natural structure. The pith is composed of lightweight, porous cellular material, perfectly structured to facilitate the slow upward movement of liquid through capillary action. When saturated with animal fat or vegetable oil, the wick draws the fuel steadily towards the flame, ensuring a consistent, low-intensity burn. The light produced by a reed wick was never harsh or sudden. It was a gentle, unwavering glow that softly pushed back the deep shadows, creating a calm and steady atmosphere in the homes of long ago. The quiet consumption of the oil and the slow, even charring of the pith, provided a dependable means of extending the daylight hours, allowing for quiet work or study long after the sun had set. The steady presence of the light encouraged a sense of stillness and patience, its soft illumination a quiet counterpoint to the rush of modern life. This simple historical application demonstrates how specialized plant structures, designed for transporting water up from the damp earth, could be repurposed to slowly, steadily transport fuel toward a gentle flame, showcasing the quiet elegance of natural materials serving human need with dependable, measured persistence. 68. The ancient process of lithification involves the quiet, relentless transformation of vast accumulations of plant material into coal, a slow process that spans the unimaginable expanse of deep geological time. This transformation begins in ancient, humid swamp ecosystems, where dense vegetation dies and sinks into the stagnant, oxygen-deprived waters. Without oxygen, the normal microbial decay is halted, allowing the organic matter to quietly accumulate layer upon layer. Over millions of years, as these layers are buried deeper by subsequent sediments, sand, mud, and rock, the immense pressure and gradually increasing geothermal heat begin their slow work. The weight of the overlying strata relentlessly compresses the peat, squeezing out water and volatile compounds in a process known as diagenesis. Carbon content slowly increases as the material progresses through various quiet stages. Peat becomes lignite, which eventually transforms into subbituminous and then bituminous coal. This geological metamorphosis is a testament to the quiet, irresistible power of Earth's crust, patiently recycling the energy of ancient sunlight captured by long-vanished forests. Each seam of coal quietly records the history of a distant ecological epoch, the fossilized silence of trees and ferns compressed into a dense, dark carbon matrix. The entire process of lithification represents a slow, silent covenant between past life and future energy, a steady, inevitable transformation driven by the quiet, pervasive forces of gravity, pressure, and immense, unhurried time. 69. The intricate network of microscopic structures on the surface of a lotus leaf is responsible for the phenomenon known as the lotus effect, ensuring that the leaf remains perpetually clean and dry. This quiet, remarkable characteristic is achieved by a dual-level roughness. The leaf is covered in gentle, microscopic peaks, known as papillae, which are themselves coated in a secondary layer of hydrophobic plant waxes. This careful, steady architecture prevents water droplets from settling or spreading. Instead, water contacts the surface only at the very tips of these tiny structures, trapping quiet pockets of air beneath the droplets. Driven by the intense, quiet force of surface tension, the water molecules prefer to cling tightly to one another rather than adhere to the non-polar, waxy surface. Consequently, water droplets sit upon the leaf surface as perfect, spherical beads that roll off at the slightest inclination. As these beads roll, they quietly gather and remove any dust, dirt, or fungal spores that may have settled upon the leaf, effectively making the lotus leaf self-cleaning. This gentle, constant cleansing action is critical for the plant's efficient photosynthesis, as dirt would otherwise block the absorption of steady sunlight. The lotus effect is a quiet marvel of biological geometry, demonstrating how specific, minute structural engineering, refined by slow evolution, can leverage the fundamental physics of water to maintain a state of perfect, enduring cleanliness and hydration stability. 70. In extremely hot and arid climates, some plants employ a specialized metabolic pathway known as crassulacean acid metabolism, or CAM photosynthesis, a quiet yet profound adaptation to conserve every precious drop of water. This process involves a critical timing shift. The plant quietly rests its stomata, the small pores used for gas exchange, during the fierce heat of the day when water loss through transpiration would be devastatingly high. Instead, under the cool, dark protection of night, when the vapor pressure gradient is minimal, the plant slowly opens its stomata to absorb carbon dioxide from the surrounding air. This carbon dioxide is then quickly fixed and stored in the form of organic acids, primarily malic acid, within the plant's vacuoles, waiting quietly until morning. As the sun rises and the day heats up, the plant closes its stomata, sealing itself against the dry air. The stored malic acid is then slowly released internally, providing the necessary carbon source to fuel the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis, which require the steady energy provided by the sunlight. This entire cycle is a quiet, rhythmic act of conservation, demanding immense patience and metabolic control. The plant effectively reverses the standard photosynthetic schedule, minimizing water expenditure by breathing only under the cloak of night. This slow, deliberate timing represents a quiet, highly efficient strategy, allowing these hardy species to thrive in environments where water availability is a constant, steady struggle against the relentless demands of the desert sun. 71. The delicate filaments within a stamen support the anther, holding the yellow pollen high in a quiet, structural elegance. This slender pillar, often pale green or nearly white, rises against the gravity of the earth with silent determination, a piece of biological engineering perfected over millennia of slow evolution. The filament acts as a gentle pedestal, lifting the precious golden dust up toward the sunlight and the slow drift of the atmosphere, preparing for the moment of quiet transfer. Within the anther itself, the tiny, intricate grains of pollen are undergoing their final preparations, encased in protective shells designed to resist drying winds and the heat of the midday sun. Each grain holds the potential for future life, waiting patiently for the subtle vibration of a visiting insect, or the smooth passage of the breeze that might carry it onward. The structure is designed for quiet visibility, relying on color and position rather than loud motion. It is a slow, steady reaching upward, a gentle declaration of availability in the stillness of the garden, mirroring the quiet persistence of stars that hold their light high above the silent landscapes of the sleeping world. The angle of the filament shifts subtly throughout the day, following the slow progress of the light, ensuring optimal exposure. A tiny, slow astronomical adjustment happening unnoticed in the calm light of the morning. This structural support is fundamental to the cycles of life, maintaining the quiet elevation needed for life to drift and settle elsewhere. 72. Many houseplants release calming moisture into the air through transpiration, silently regulating the humidity in your quiet room. This process is a continuous, gentle cycle of purification and exchange, driven by the subtle pressure gradients between the inner leaf structure and the surrounding atmosphere. Water molecules, having been drawn up slowly through the plant's internal plumbing by the miraculous power of capillary action, rise against the insistent pull of gravity, journeying from the cool, dark earth to the sunlit surface of the leaves. There, they diffuse into the air through microscopic pores called stomata, vanishing into the room as invisible vapor. This slow release creates a microclimate of gentle, stable air, soothing the dryness that modern heating systems often introduce. The plant breathes out moisture, a calming exhalation that mirrors the steady rhythm of slow, deep sleeping breaths. It is a constant, quiet generosity, working without complaint or noise, simply maintaining a balanced equilibrium. The effect is profound yet completely unobserved, save for the feeling of ease and the subtle cooling of the air immediately surrounding the green leaves. It is a constant reminder that life requires this careful exchange, a measured give and take with the environment, maintaining the delicate balance of vapor pressure and molecular movement essential for comfort and rest, anchoring the stillness of your sleeping space with its gentle, quiet work. The water molecules drift slowly, settling upon the soft textures of the room, preparing them for the cool quiet of the night. 73. The hushed scattering of explosive seed pods is a mechanism for quiet dispersal, suddenly launching seeds far into the undergrowth. This dramatic event is preceded by a long period of internal preparation and building tension, a slow accumulation of mechanical force within the drying tissues of the fruit wall. As the cellular structures lose their moisture, they contract unevenly, storing potential energy like a tightly coiled spring, silent and invisible to the casual eye. This slow dehydration heightens the internal stress until a critical breaking point is reached, a sudden, instantaneous rupture. The silence is broken only by a small, brief snap, a sudden punctuation mark in the ongoing stillness of the forest floor, followed by the soft rustle of tiny seeds tumbling through the low-hanging air. The dispersal is designed to be fast, ensuring that the seeds are thrown clear of the parent plant, allowing them to settle in new ground away from competition for light and nutrients. After the brief moment of explosive action, quiet returns swiftly, leaving the seeds nestled deep in the soft earth, ready for their long, slow wait. This tiny, violent moment is a necessary part of the continuous cycle of quiet life, a quick burst of energy ensuring the widespread propagation of the species, before settling back into the slow, steady rhythm of growth and decay that governs the deep woods. A moment of quick motion followed by the deep, persistent stillness of the forest. 74. The soft padding of the cactus spine protects the plant from harm, yet also collects tiny droplets of morning dew. The geometry of the spine is a subtle masterpiece of natural engineering, simultaneously serving as a deterrent to thirsty browsers and a fine-tuned apparatus for water harvesting. During the quiet, cool hours just before dawn, as the desert air temperature dips below the dew point, the cooler surfaces of the cactus spines provide nucleation sites where atmospheric water vapor can gently condense. The sharp tips and edges are perfectly angled to encourage this gathering, guiding the newly formed, minute droplets down their length toward the body of the plant. Surface tension works quietly, pulling the water along the microscopic ridges and grooves until the drops merge, growing heavy enough to seep slowly into the waxy epidermal layers below. The defense mechanism thus transforms into a quiet hydrological aid, turning the harsh environment into a source of life-giving moisture. It is a dual function of elegance and necessity, demonstrating the plant's deep resilience and adaptation to scarcity. The spines stand as silent sentinels, catching the ephemeral moisture of the early morning air, transforming the invisible humidity into tangible sustenance. This slow, continuous collection of tiny water molecules happens in the deep silence before the world wakes, ensuring the cactus can survive the relentless, slow passing of dry seasons, relying on the quiet physics of condensation and surface flow to sustain its quiet existence. 75. Tree crowns interlock and sway together in the wind, creating a quiet canopy communication known as crown shyness. This phenomenon describes the tendency of certain trees to maintain a distinct, visible gap between the edges of their fully grown crowns, preventing the physical abrasion that would occur if the branches continually rubbed against each other during gentle breezes or strong gusts. The resulting pattern, visible from below as intricate, branching sky paths, suggests a delicate negotiation of space and light, a communal agreement established without spoken word or sudden movement. As the wind moves, the branches perform a slow, synchronized dance, ensuring their neighbors have adequate access to the direct vertical sunlight filtering down from above. This spatial awareness implies a complex, long-term pattern recognition, a quiet acknowledgement of the boundaries necessary for mutual health and survival in the dense forest community. It is a form of silent, cooperative architecture, where each individual limits its own expansion just enough to ensure the collective flow of air and light remains open and accessible. The gaps themselves become gentle pathways for the movement of small air currents and the slow descent of rainwater, preventing the formation of stagnant pockets. The canopy breathes as one unit, its large, interconnected surface rippling slowly in response to atmospheric pressure changes. A quiet, protective layer resting above the deep stillness of the forest floor, demonstrating a soft, shared wisdom about spatial limits and peaceful coexistence. 76. The milky latex sap of certain plants flows slowly when cut, acting as a quiet, natural bandage to seal the small injury. When the delicate cellular structures are breached, an immediate localized response is initiated, a slow, viscous outpouring designed to stem the loss of vital fluids and block the entry of external pathogens, such as slow-moving fungi or quiet, unseen bacteria. This latex is a complex emulsion, rich in defensive compounds, proteins, and sticky polymers that quickly coagulate upon contact with the air. The chemical reaction transforms the liquid into a pliable, slow-forming solid barrier, knitting together the broken cellular lines of the plant tissue. The slow, steady drip of the white liquid is a visual sign of this internal healing process, a natural application of biological resilience working against the pressures of the external world. It is a self-administered first aid, carried out with calm, quiet efficiency, ensuring the stability of the internal hydraulic system is quickly restored. As the latex hardens, it forms a protective crust, sealing the wound until the internal regeneration processes can slowly repair the underlying structural damage. This persistence in self-repair highlights the quiet determination of living things to maintain their integrity, flowing slowly and deliberately to achieve restoration and peace, demonstrating a fundamental biological commitment to slow, continuous existence, regardless of the small external breaches experienced during the long, gentle passage of time. 77. The deep blue coloring found in some flowers is created by pigments called anthocyanins, providing a cool, restful visual hue. These pigments are complex chemical compounds that absorb the higher energy wavelengths of light, the yellows and oranges, while reflecting the calmer, shorter blue and violet wavelengths back toward the observer. The resultant deep blue is often associated with the quiet hours of twilight, the vast, cool depths of the ocean, or the clear, distant atmosphere above. This specific shade of color possesses an inherently restful quality, slowing the eye's movement and encouraging a sense of depth and peaceful contemplation. The precise shade of the blue is often influenced by the subtle pH level within the plant cells, meaning that tiny molecular shifts can alter the color tone from violet to azure, reflecting the internal chemical stability of the plant. This color serves as a silent signal in the natural world, often appealing to specific pollinators that are most active in the low light of dawn or dusk, creatures that navigate by subtle, cool visual cues rather than bright, dominating colors. The blue acts as a quiet anchor against the often overwhelming brightness of the green foliage and the yellow sunlight, offering a visual space of calm and gentle shadow, drawing the gaze inward to a place of deep, serene stillness, where the light has softened into a cool, quiet repose. It is a color that whispers of hidden pools and the slow, inexorable turning of the celestial sphere. 78. The slow growth of ancient boxwood hedges creates a dense, dark structure that feels permanent and quietly steadfast in the garden. Boxwood is characterized by an exceedingly slow metabolic rate, producing wood tissue with extreme density over decades, even centuries, of patient development. This resistance to rapid change lends the hedge its remarkable structural integrity and its capacity to be shaped into firm, architectural forms that define space with quiet authority. The darkness of the structure is created by the dense canopy, where the small, tightly packed leaves absorb nearly all available light, creating deep, cool shadows within the hedge's interior. Observing an old boxwood hedge is to observe compressed time. Its current height and breadth represent the accumulation of countless quiet growing seasons, standing immovable against the rapid passing of human years and fleeting seasonal shifts. It symbolizes endurance and quiet reliability, anchoring the transient elements of the landscape. The brightly colored annual flowers, the fast-moving clouds, with its own slow, persistent mass. The hedge provides a sense of history and continuity, reminding the observer of the quiet persistence required for true permanence. It requires minimal, slow maintenance, simply existing as a dense, steady, unchanging presence, offering a quiet, structural backdrop against which the drama of the garden unfolds slowly and calmly over the long stretch of many quiet mornings and evenings. 79. Resurrection ferns curl up completely when dry, waiting in a quiet, dormant state until the first drops of rain revive their green. This remarkable capacity for anhydrobiosis, or life without water, involves a profound molecular stabilization of the fern's cellular components. As external water vanishes, the cells initiate a quiet, internal process of carefully folding and compacting their structures, synthesizing protective sugars that vitrify, turning the internal fluid into a glassy, stable solid that shields the delicate proteins and membranes from destructive drying. The fern stops all detectable metabolic activity, transforming into a brittle, brown, seemingly lifeless curl, existing in a state of suspended animation, a quiet pause in the cycle of life. It waits without consuming energy, patiently enduring the long dry spell, relying only on the certainty that rain will eventually return. When the water molecules finally arrive, falling gently onto the dry tissues, the process reverses with elegant speed and smoothness. The water is rapidly absorbed, the protective sugars dissolve, and the tightly coiled fronds slowly begin to unfurl, regaining their plump greenness in a quiet, visible transformation. It is a miracle of quiet resilience, a gentle, scientific demonstration that life does not always require continuous activity, but can simply wait, poised in stillness, ready for the molecular signal of renewal that the arrival of soft, steady rain provides. 80. The roots of water hyacinths form thick, floating mats, gently cleaning pollutants from the water in a slow, natural filtration. These extensive root systems, suspended just below the surface of the quiet water, act as massive biological sponges, offering an enormous surface area for both physical filtration and chemical absorption. As the water flows slowly through the dense tangle of submerged roots, suspended particulate matter, fine silt and organic debris, is physically trapped and prevented from moving further downstream. More importantly, the roots are highly effective at passively absorbing various dissolved pollutants, including heavy metals and excess nutrients like nitrates and phosphates. The plant takes these chemicals into its own system, utilizing them for growth or storing them safely within its cellular structure, thereby removing them from the surrounding water environment. This process is continuous, quiet, and highly efficient, relying on the plant's basic biological necessity for growth to perform the service of bioremediation. The floating mats drift slowly across the surface, representing a vast, self-sustaining cleaning mechanism, improving the water quality of lakes and slow-moving rivers with soft, steady persistence. It is a silent, environmental purification process, where the floating leaves signal life and health, while the complex, dark roots beneath perform the slow, gentle work of cleansing, stabilizing the aquatic ecosystem one slow molecule at a time. 81. The slow, rhythmic shedding of skin or bark on some palm trees creates a textured, patterned trunk that tells the story of time. The outer casing of the palm trunk, often composed of old leaf bases, does not simply fall away, but instead yields to the forces of gravity and internal pressure in a measured, predictable cadence. This exfoliation is a natural and quiet process, a biological record-keeping that requires no written symbols or spoken history. Each segment that gently loosens and descends marks the completion of a growth phase, perhaps an entire season or a full year, depending upon the species and the consistency of the solar energy it receives. Over vast stretches of decades, these residual scars stack upon one another, creating a highly specific topography upon the trunk's surface. This texture is unique to the palm, unlike the more diffuse growth rings of temperate forest trees. These patterns speak of continuity and the relentless march of time, illustrating how the plant has negotiated the subtle shifts in wind direction, the periods of heavy rain, and the slow, consistent respiration it performs every moment of every day. The trunk itself is a silent chronometer, its rugged geometry acting as a gentle visual illustration of linear botanical existence. We can observe the lowermost, oldest segments, weathered smooth by countless breezes and the soft abrasion of dust, contrasting with the slightly fresher, more structured patterns near the canopy, where the newest growth is still actively contributing to the life of the plant. This slow narrative of senescence and replacement continues without fanfare, a steady meditation on the cycles of life and material transformation. The very structure of the trunk provides silent support, carrying essential water and nutrients upward against the constant pull of the Earth's gravity, while its outer surface simultaneously broadcasts the cumulative measure of its long, upright journey toward the sunlight. It is a peaceful, permanent record etched into the very fabric of the living world, asking only for quiet observation. 82. The quiet scent released when stepping on crushed pine needles is a natural blend of calming, aromatic terpenes. When the delicate structure of the dried pine needle is fractured by the gentle pressure of a footfall, the small, sequestered pockets of essential oils are released into the still air of the forest floor. These oils are composed primarily of a fascinating group of organic molecules known as terpenes, complex hydrocarbons built from simple repeating isoprene units. It is the molecular weight and volatility of these terpenes, such as pinene and limonene, that allow them to gently evaporate and drift, carried by the rising warmth of the forest floor. This subtle diffusion creates the characteristic, soothing scent we associate with the deep, cool shelter beneath the evergreens. This fragrance serves a biological purpose for the tree, often acting as a protective barrier against certain insects or minimizing water loss. But for the visitor, the effect is purely restorative. The molecules enter the air and are carried by the soft movement of breath, traveling into the respiratory system, where they engage the complex network of olfactory receptors. This chemical interaction sends gentle signals to the brain, frequently inducing a state of calm and reducing the quickened pace of daily thought. The process is entirely silent, relying solely on the movement of molecules and the finely tuned biological architecture of detection. When the sun dips low and the forest shadows lengthen, this aromatic presence seems to intensify, perhaps due to the cooling air settling and concentrating the fragrant chemical mist closer to the ground. The steady, quiet presence of these terpenes is a testament to the efficient chemistry of the plant kingdom, offering a subtle, ancient form of gentle aromatherapy provided by the quiet respiration of the earth itself. The scent hovers close to the earth, a soft, invisible blanket woven from the very essence of the pine. 83. Tuberous roots, like those of potatoes, quietly store energy below ground, ensuring survival during harsh, cold seasons above. The life cycle of the tuberous root is a patient, deeply grounded contract with the cycles of the sun and the seasons. Throughout the warm, abundant months of late spring and summer, the leaves above ground engage in the constant, quiet miracle of photosynthesis, capturing photons of light and converting carbon dioxide and water into complex sugars. These sugars represent vital energy, the fuel for future growth and the means of immediate survival. Yet, much of this synthesized energy is not used immediately, but is slowly and efficiently transported downward through the vascular system, driven by osmotic pressure and the inherent wisdom of the plant's biological programming. Gravity assists in this gentle downward flow, settling the energy deep beneath the soil line where temperatures are more stable, and the threats of frost or surface drought are diminished. The specialized cells of the tuber then begin the silent, complex work of conversion, transforming the soluble sugars into dense, stable starch molecules that resist easy breakdown. This storage is an act of foresight, a guarantee that when the cold descends, when the light weakens, and when the leaves above inevitably wither and relinquish their hold on life, the essential spark of life remains protected and nourished below. The cold period above is a necessary time of rest and dormancy for the tuber, where metabolic rates slow to a whisper, conserving every stored calorie. It waits in the stillness, surrounded by the silent, slow pressure of the earth, poised for the moment when the solar angle shifts again and the gentle warmth returns, signaling the time to awaken and send forth new shoots toward the light. This quiet, underground tenacity secures the continuation of life through inevitable periods of environmental hardship. 84. The thick cuticle layer on a holly leaf prevents frost damage, allowing the plant to maintain its quiet, deep green color all winter. The surface of the holly leaf is coated in a remarkable layer of biochemical defense known as the cuticle, a smooth, tough layer composed predominantly of waxy polymers. This structure is not merely cosmetic. It is a critical engineering solution for surviving the stresses of the cold season. In winter, one of the greatest dangers to plant life is not necessarily the cold itself, but the resulting desiccation, the quiet, constant loss of essential internal moisture. The microscopic pores, or stomata, through which the plant normally exhales water vapor during transpiration, must be strictly regulated. The waxy cuticle provides a near-impermeable shield, significantly reducing the rate at which precious water can escape the leaf's internal architecture, and preventing the sudden, devastating freeze-drying that often afflicts less protected plants. Furthermore, this waxy coating plays a vital role in resisting the physical impact of frost. When water freezes, it expands, and if this expansion occurs within the delicate structure of the plant cells, the tissues rupture, leading to necrosis and browning. The holly's protective layer works in concert with internal chemical adjustments, allowing the cells to manage their water content in such a way that ice formation is minimized or relegated safely to the intercellular spaces. This resilience allows the chlorophyll within the leaf to remain active and vibrant, maintaining that deep, quiet emerald hue even when snow blankets the surrounding ground, and the light is thin and weak. The holly stands as a steady, green beacon in the dormancy of winter, a testament to the elegant protective properties of its specialized outer shell, patiently awaiting the return of the sun's sustained warmth. 85. The pale, luminous color of night-blooming cereus softly attracts moths under the moonlight for silent, evening pollination. The coloration of the night-blooming cereus is a masterpiece of evolutionary quietude, relying not on vibrant, high-energy pigments visible under the bright arc of the sun, but on subtle reflectivity designed for the low-light environment of the lunar cycle. These large, often creamy white or pale yellow blossoms open precisely at dusk, their luminous petals maximizing the capture and diffusion of ambient starlight and the gentle, indirect light of the moon. This pale glow acts as a soft, visible target against the dark tapestry of the night foliage. The flower is also often structured in a deep, trumpet-like form, creating a strong visual contrast and a clear landing zone. Moths, the intended pollinators, navigate the nocturnal world using highly sensitive sensory organs, relying on faint light cues and the intense, sweet fragrance the cereus releases as darkness deepens. The visual signal of the pale color guides the moth, drawing it gently toward the central nectaries hidden within the flower's folds. It is a brief and silent biological transaction, conducted under the watchful, slow movement of celestial bodies. The ephemeral bloom lasts only a single night, a short window of opportunity that necessitates a highly efficient, focused signaling system. As the first faint streaks of dawn begin to lighten the eastern horizon, the magnificent petals begin their gentle collapse, their brief moment of luminous glory concluded. The pale color, having served its quiet, essential purpose of drawing the nocturnal visitors, fades back into the shadows as the day's louder, brighter cycle begins a new. 86. When a quiet vine stem encounters an obstacle, it releases chemical signals, prompting a slow, careful change in its growth direction. The process by which a growing vine detects and responds to the presence of a rigid structure is a marvel of internal communication and patient adaptation. As the tender, searching tendril extends, it is inherently programmed to seek support, a gravitational upward movement guided by the sun's influence. However, when the sensitive tips brush against a solid object, perhaps a fence wire or the rough bark of a tree, a cascade of physiological signals is instantaneously triggered within the plant cells. This gentle physical stimulus, known as thigmotropism, prompts the immediate, localized release and redistribution of growth-regulating hormones, most notably auxins. These powerful, microscopic chemical messengers flow away from the point of contact, creating an imbalance in concentration across the stem's circumference. The cells on the side of the stem facing away from the obstacle receive a higher concentration of auxin, which signals them to elongate more rapidly than the cells directly pressed against the support. This differential growth is not abrupt or frantic. Rather, it is a slow, steady, and precise adjustment. Over the course of hours, the differential elongation causes the vine to gently curl and coil around the supportive structure, stabilizing its position and ensuring its continued ascent toward the necessary light. This entire process occurs in silence, a quiet negotiation between the vine's biological imperative for vertical growth and the physical realities of its immediate environment, relying entirely on the efficient, microscopic language of chemical signaling to navigate its world. 87. The sweet smell of ripening fruit signals to the world that its seeds are ready for quiet dispersal by gentle, hungry creatures. The transformation from hard, green, tasteless fruit to soft, colorful, aromatic ripeness is a deliberate and carefully orchestrated chemical signal designed to announce readiness. This change is driven primarily by the release of a gaseous plant hormone called ethylene, which triggers a cascade of physiological changes. As the fruit softens, the complex starches within are broken down into simple, sweet sugars, making the fruit highly palatable. Simultaneously, volatile organic compounds, the molecules responsible for scent, are released into the surrounding air. This sweet aroma is the plant's quiet, irresistible invitation to the animal kingdom. The fragrance travels on soft breezes, carrying the message that the reproductive unit, the seed nestled safely inside, is fully mature and chemically prepared for its journey. The purpose of this sweetness and fragrance is to attract specific dispersers, gentle creatures who will consume the flesh of the fruit and, crucially, transport the resilient, protected seed away from the parent plant. The plant offers nourishment in exchange for transportation, a co-evolutionary pact built upon taste and smell. Once the fruit is consumed, the seed, often possessing a tough outer coat and requiring exposure to digestive enzymes, begins its silent, internal journey, eventually deposited far from the dense shadow of its origin, thus optimizing its chance for quiet germination and future growth under new patches of sunlight. The fleeting sweetness is merely a biological announcement, a brief flare of attraction that ensures the continuation of the species through the willing aid of a hungry, passing messenger. 88. Certain sedges grow in circular patterns, expanding slowly outward over decades, creating quiet, stable rings of vegetation. The quiet, patterned growth of certain sedge species often results in the formation of near-perfect circular rings, a phenomenon known as clonal growth or fairy rings of the plant world. This expansion begins from a central point, often a single original seedling, which then spreads slowly outward through underground stems called rhizomes. The sedge sends out these subterranean runners in all directions, colonizing the surrounding soil with genetically identical shoots. As the circle expands, the older, centrally located stems eventually reach the end of their lifespan. Their tissues die and quietly decompose, creating a nutrient-rich hollow in the middle of the ring. The living, vibrant green growth then forms the outer circumference of the circle, steadily widening the diameter year after year, sometimes across several human generations. This slow, predictable geometry provides remarkable stability to the landscape, knitting the soil together and resisting erosion. The ring structure is a visual representation of time, with the outermost edge marking the most recent advances into the habitat. The speed of expansion is glacial, perhaps measured in mere centimeters per year, yet the resulting structure is massive, a quiet testament to sustained, patient effort. These enduring rings create microclimates within their boundaries, subtly altering the soil composition and moisture retention. They stand as silent, geometric monuments to the power of continuous, slow replication and the enduring nature of perennial growth, maintaining their stable, circular form as seasons shift and the environment gently changes around them. 89. The soft, wispy plumes of certain grasses sway harmoniously in the wind, contributing to the quiet, rhythmic sounds of the prairie. The tall, delicate plumes of prairie grasses, adorned with their feathery seed heads, are exquisitely tuned instruments that interact with the slightest movement of air. When the gentle currents of wind sweep across the wide, open plains, these flexible stems absorb the kinetic energy, resulting in a collective, harmonious oscillation. The movement is not random or chaotic, but synchronized, creating wide, undulating waves that ripple across the expanse, a visual representation of the invisible flow of the atmosphere. This motion is essential for seed dispersal, gently shaking the mature seeds free to be carried away by the very same breeze that moves the stalk. As the thousands of plumes move in concert, rubbing against one another and against the flowing air, they generate a specific auditory signature of the prairie, a soft, sustained rustling sound known sometimes as soughing. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic whisper, entirely devoid of harshness, blending the natural sounds of friction and the gentle passage of air into a calming, continuous environmental soundscape. This soft noise serves as a constant, quiet backdrop, often masking the individual sounds of smaller creatures below and emphasizing the immense, slow, atmospheric cycles above. The plumes are thus both visual and auditory elements, transforming the invisible presence of the wind into tangible movement and soothing sound, a gentle reminder of the constant, quiet energy that permeates the wide, open spaces of the Earth. 90. The interior rings of ancient desert cacti hold a reserve of pure water, silently guarded beneath the tough, waxy exterior. The life of a desert cactus is a prolonged study in conservation and silent, strategic storage, driven by the profound scarcity of water in its arid environment. Beneath the thick, protective layer of epidermis and the heavy coating of waxy cuticle, which minimize evaporative loss to almost zero, lies the vast, central storage tissue, the parenchyma. This internal volume is structured to maximize water retention, often forming rings or deep central columns within the cactus body. The cells within this parenchyma tissue are specially adapted to swell, holding massive quantities of water tightly bound within their vacuoles, ensuring a stable, life-sustaining reserve. This stored water is remarkably pure, filtered slowly from the rare, sudden desert rains or condensed from morning dew and fog, absorbed through specialized, shallow root systems. The water is actively guarded by the plant's defenses, including the sharp, hardened spines that deter thirsty animals seeking to breach the waxy armor for access to the precious interior reserve. The water reserve is a testament to slow, enduring adaptation. It allows the cactus to maintain its metabolic function, albeit at an extremely slow, conservative rate, through months or even years of drought. The plant relies on this internal buffer, quietly holding the essence of life in a hostile landscape, waiting patiently for the infrequent moisture cycles. This silent reservoir of purity represents the culmination of efficient biological engineering against the relentless pressure of evaporation and the slow, consistent heat of the desert sun. 91. During the heat of the day, when the sun reaches its highest, most intense point in the azure sky, some leaves begin a subtle, almost imperceptible turn, a slow, gentle pivot away from the direct, overwhelming solar energy. This quiet movement is a profound expression of botanical wisdom, a delicate dance known as paraheliotropism, where the leaf surface seeks only the necessary oblique light, enough to continue the slow miracle of photosynthesis, without suffering the scorching consequence of midday intensity. The leaf, a flat, green solar panel, shifts its angle by mere degrees, just enough to present its edge rather than its broad face to the sun's persistent gaze. This minimized exposure is not about hiding, but about careful stewardship of internal resources, primarily the precious water molecules drawn up through the xylem. If the leaf were to hold steady against the blazing noon, the rate of transpiration, the necessary release of water vapor through the stomata, would accelerate far too quickly, risking dehydration and collapse in the soft, fibrous structure. Instead, the small internal motor within the pulvinus, the cushion-like joint at the base of the leaf stalk, slowly adjusts the turgor pressure within its cells, causing the leaf to sink or tilt with exquisite slowness, following the sun's trajectory only indirectly. It is a biological negotiation with the heat, a silent agreement made moment by moment, ensuring that the necessary exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen continues at a sustainable pace, maintaining the gentle, humid coolness essential for life within the microscopic chambers of the leaf tissue, a sustained state of quiet equilibrium throughout the long, warm afternoon. This deep, slow conservation is a biological lullaby sung under the high sun, teaching us the quiet efficiency of gentle avoidance when pressures become too great, maintaining internal stillness against external force. The soft adjustment ensures survival until the slower, cooler evening light returns. 92. The quiet germination process begins in the dark, soft earth, a profound awakening triggered by the gentle, insistent touch of moisture. When water molecules seep into the dry seed, they perform an extraordinary act of quiet infiltration, gradually swelling the protective outer layer, the sturdy seed coat, a process known as imbibition. This gradual absorption generates immense internal pressure, a slow, patient force that eventually causes the hard shell to yield, cracking along predetermined lines of weakness, releasing the tiny, waiting embryo within. This embryo has been held in a state of suspended animation, a perfect, miniature blueprint of the future plant, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, waiting for the precise combination of temperature, darkness, and wetness. Once the pressure is sufficient and the coat has softened, the first visible sign of life emerges. The radicle, the primordial rootlet, a pale, searching structure that instinctively turns downward, guided by the inescapable, silent pull of gravity and the deep, abiding need for subterranean water and mineral salts. This gentle stretch is the first breath of the plant's existence, the anchor securing it to the moist earth, establishing the vital connection that allows for the uptake of life-sustaining substances. As the rootlet deepens its grasp, the energy stored within the seed's reserves, the starchy cotyledons, fuels the initial upward push of the nascent stem, the hypocotyl arching slowly towards the distant light. It is a transformation from hard, compact potential into soft, extending reality, a movement so slow it requires days to perceive, a silent promise whispered into the dark soil that the cycle of growth is beginning once more, quietly, inevitably. The molecules reorganize with a patient energy, pushing against the weight of the soil, confirming the deep, silent wisdom of biological timing, a steady rhythm beating just beneath the surface of the earth. 93. The pale, smooth bark of the birch tree stands as a gentle contrast to the rougher textures of the surrounding deep forest, offering a quiet visual relief in the cold, dense woods. This delicate outer skin is composed of thin, papery layers, often rolling back at the edges like old parchment slowly unfurling in the still air. This layered structure, largely composed of suberin, provides a high degree of water resistance and protection against the harsh temperature swings of the northern climate, insulating the active inner layers from extreme cold. The striking whiteness is achieved by lenticels, horizontal pores that allow the quiet exchange of air and gases between the living cambium layer inside and the external atmosphere, appearing like dark, subtle stitches across the smooth, luminous surface. When touched, the bark feels cool and surprisingly soft, a misleading fragility that belies the tree's deep, steady anchoring through decades of harsh weather. As the trunk expands in girth, a slow process driven by the annular growth rings deep inside. The rigid outer layer cannot stretch but must instead fracture and peel away in those characteristic, gentle ribbons, shedding the old protective coat for the newer, whiter layer beneath. This continuous, quiet renewal speaks of the tree's persistent life cycle, a soft shedding that does not signify sickness but vigorous growth, leaving behind a scattering of pale, curled segments upon the forest floor, soon to become part of the quiet detritus of the understory. The peeled bark remains supple, a natural, quiet texture that absorbs sound and reflects the soft light of the winter sun, standing sentinel in the sleeping woods, embodying both resilience and a surprising, gentle softness against the rugged landscape, a beacon of quiet light in the darker months, marking the passing of time through its constant, soft renewal. 94. Beneath the shimmering, ancient surface of the Mediterranean Sea lies a vast, quiet meadow of Posidonia oceanica, often referred to as Neptune grass, an immense, slow-growing marine flowering plant that sustains the deep, blue ecosystem. This underwater landscape stretches out in slow, undulating patterns across the sandy sea floor, its long, bright green leaves swaying with the deep, gentle movement of the currents, absorbing the filtered sunlight that penetrates the water column. Through the steady, relentless process of photosynthesis, entirely mirroring the mechanics of terrestrial plants, this subaquatic meadow silently consumes enormous quantities of dissolved carbon dioxide from the water, locking the carbon away in its dense rhizomes and deep root systems, which can often be centuries old, forming vast subterranean mattresses. In return for this vital consumption, the grass releases a steady, quiet stream of pure oxygen minute bubbles that rise slowly and imperceptibly through the water, dissolving along the way and enriching the ocean's life support system. This constant, invisible production of oxygen is crucial, creating zones of rich aeration where fish, crustaceans, and myriad other organisms find the clean, necessary breath to thrive. The meadows act as the silent lungs of the sea, filtering the water and stabilizing the sediment, ensuring the clarity and health of the coastal zones. Their growth is measured not in quick seasonal spurts, but in slow geological time, creating thick, layered mats of decaying matter known as mat, a quiet archive of the ocean's history. These enormous green stretches represent one of the planet's most efficient natural carbon sinks, working continuously, tirelessly, in the gentle half-light below the waves, a profound, steady force of quiet ecological balance, silently supporting the vast liquid world above them with quiet, steady respiration. 95. When the delicate leaves of certain herbs are gently rubbed between the thumb and forefinger, a profound, quiet exchange occurs, releasing a cloud of calming essential oils that drift softly into the surrounding air. This instantaneous burst of fragrance is the result of minute, oil-filled vesicles, tiny botanical sacs housed just beneath the leaf's epidermis, being ruptured by the slight mechanical pressure. These oils are complex mixtures of volatile organic compounds, specialized molecules designed by the plant for protection, communication, or attraction, but which, when released, interact powerfully with the human olfactory system, traveling quickly from the nasal passages to the limbic system in the brain. The sensation is immediate. The sharp, bright scent of lavender or the warm, earthy aroma of rosemary bypasses the slow routes of digestion, offering an instant moment of sensory comfort and relaxation. The effect is profoundly quiet because it relies entirely on the movement of invisible molecules, carried on the gentle currents of the air, subtly altering the neurochemistry within the nervous system, prompting a gentle slowing of the heart rate and a softening of muscle tension. It is a quiet, natural form of immediate relief, a gift released by the plant under the slightest, most non-destructive pressure. The gentle friction generates a microscopic warmth, just enough energy to help loft the tiny oil molecules upward, allowing them to gently surround the observer in a fragrant, invisible shroud of calm. To rub the leaf is to briefly disrupt its structure, but in doing so, one unlocks the plant's quiet, inherent power to soothe and settle the mind into a rhythm of deep, slow stillness. A gentle reminder that immediate comfort can be found in the slightest, most respectful interaction with the living, quiet world of green growth. 96. The quiet, accumulating weight of heavy winter snow settles softly upon the outstretched branches of the dormant trees, a persistent, silent pressure that tests the structural integrity developed over many seasons. Each tiny, crystalline flake contributes its minute fraction of mass, until the collective burden becomes substantial, causing the branches to subtly deflect and arc earthward, stretching the fibers of the wood to their temporary limit. This sustained stress is not a catastrophe, but a form of deep, natural training for the tree, a silent communication between the external environment and the internal growth mechanisms. Throughout the long winter, the tree registers this persistent gravitational load, and when the dormant period ends and the spring growth resumes, the tree subtly alters the architecture of its new wood structure. It responds with increased production of lignin and cellulose, tough polymers that contribute to a greater density and stiffness, particularly on the underside of the stressed limbs, forming what is known as reaction wood, strengthening the critical load-bearing zones. This slow molecular strengthening, known generally as thigmomorphogenesis, ensures that the structure is better prepared for the future, heavier loads of coming winters. The heavy snows force the wood to become tougher, the grain tighter, the fibers more resilient, making the tree less likely to sustain catastrophic breakage in future storms. Learning its necessary lessons in structural mechanics from the slow, cold weight of accumulation, it is a profound, quiet lesson learned through enduring pressure, where the natural world demands slow, incremental strength. The resilience is built cell by cell, year after year, reinforcing the gentle but firm structure that allows the tree to hold its place against the sky, standing strong and silent while the snow silently piles higher upon its patiently strengthened limbs, awaiting the slow, soft melt of the spring. 97. The phenomenon of sensitive plants, like the familiar Mimosa pudica, offers a brief, quiet spectacle of rapid biological movement, a startling contrast to the slow, measured pace of most botanical life. Upon the lightest touch, the compound leaves rapidly collapse inward, folding their tiny leaflets together like closing fans, and the whole petiole often droops downward towards the earth in a sudden, elegant swoon. This immediate defensive action is triggered not by muscles, which plants do not possess, but by a swift, calculated change in internal fluid pressure within specialized motor organs called pulvini, located at the joints of the leaf stalks. The mechanical stimulus of touch initiates a rapid electrical signal, an action potential traveling through the plant's vascular system, instructing the cells on one side of the pulvinus to quickly and dramatically expel their internal water volume, releasing it into intercellular spaces. This sudden loss of turgor pressure causes the cells to shrink instantly, leading to the rapid structural collapse of the leaf structure. This quiet, momentary pause in display is an evolutionary adaptation, believed to deter grazing herbivores by momentarily appearing wilted or less appealing, or perhaps to dislodge small insects that might be attempting to settle and feed. The entire graceful folding sequence lasts only a fraction of a second, an immediate, visceral response to a perceived disturbance. Once the threat has passed, and the quiet stillness of the surrounding air returns, the plant initiates the slow, measured process of reinflation, gradually allowing the water to re-enter the pulvinous cells. This slow, patient restoration of turgor pressure takes considerably longer than the initial collapse, often requiring many minutes to fully unfold and once again present its delicate, feathery leaves to the quiet light. A cycle of quick defense followed by slow, patient recovery. 98. The smooth, cylindrical form of horsetail reeds, standing upright in moist, quiet soil, reflects an astonishingly ancient lineage, a quiet echo of deep, prehistoric swamp growth that predates the flowering plants by hundreds of millions of years. These simple, segmented structures, often mistaken for rushes or common weeds, are members of the genus Equisetum, survivors from the Carboniferous period when their ancestors grew into massive, towering tree-like forms that dominated the early terrestrial landscape, contributing significantly to the biomass that eventually formed the planet's vast coal deposits. Their structure is minimalist and highly efficient. Hollow, jointed stems that conduct water and perform photosynthesis, rather than relying on complex, broad leaves. The texture is noticeably abrasive to the touch, owing to the high concentration of silica crystals embedded within the cell walls, lending the stems a structural toughness and resilience that has allowed them to persist unchanged through immense geological time and withstand constant minor stresses. This silica matrix gives the reed its characteristic, quiet strength, protecting it from both grazing animals and environmental stresses. When pulled apart, the segments click softly back into place, a demonstration of their elegant, modular design. Observing a patch of horsetails is like peering back into a silent, green archive of Earth's history, watching the very slow, steady growth pattern that unfolded during the era of early terrestrial colonization. Their simple reproductive structures, specialized cones that release spores rather than seeds, further emphasize their antiquity. They stand today as quiet monuments to endurance, surviving continental shifts and climate changes, rooted deeply in the damp earth, embodying a timeless, steady rhythm of life that has spanned epochs, a constant, quiet presence in the ecological memory of the land. 99. The slow, gentle decomposition of plant matter in waterlogged environments gives rise to the formation of rich, dark peat, a process of quiet, deep accumulation that builds up the Earth's vital soil layers over immense stretches of time. Peatlands, such as bogs and fens, are characterized by highly saturated conditions, where the persistent presence of water drastically limits the availability of oxygen. Without sufficient oxygen, the microscopic bacteria and fungi responsible for rapid decay cannot efficiently break down the complex organic molecules, the lignin and cellulose, of dead mosses, sedges, and grasses. Instead of dissolving quickly, the plant matter only partially decomposes, consolidating into a dense, fibrous mass. This slow, halting process of decay captures vast amounts of atmospheric carbon that the living plants initially drew down through photosynthesis, locking it securely within the layered structure of the peat matrix, effectively sequestering carbon from the atmosphere for millennia. The rate of accumulation is exquisitely slow, often requiring a century to generate a layer merely a few centimeters deep, meaning that many peat bogs are quiet repositories of thousands of years of stored carbon and history. Digging into the peat reveals these dark, compressed layers, often preserving ancient pollens, wood fragments, and even historical artifacts, offering a physical record of past climates and ecological change with startling clarity. Peat formation is a profound, quiet geological function, maintaining a critical balance in the global carbon cycle, a dark, rich, and silent foundation that holds the memory of slow growth and gentle, incomplete decay, resting patiently beneath the shallow water table, performing its essential, slow work in the quiet, damp silence. 100. Even in the highest, most unforgiving reaches of the mountain slopes, where the air is thin, the solar radiation intense, and the rocky terrain is stark and relentless. The high-altitude wildflowers find quiet, determined ways to bloom, offering tiny, vivid colors against the immense canvas of gray stone. These resilient species possess remarkable biological adaptations that allow them to endure conditions that would instantly destroy lowland flora. Many adopt a cushion growth form, huddling tightly together close to the ground, creating a miniature, self-insulating microclimate that traps solar warmth and protects against the biting, persistent winds, achieving a slight but crucial temperature buffer near the rock surface. Their root systems burrow deep into the crevices of the rock, seeking the scarce moisture held captive far beneath the surface, anchoring the tiny plants against the threat of erosion and the relentless cycle of freezing and thawing known as frost heave. The growing season here is exceptionally short, often lasting only a few intensely bright weeks between the melting of the snow and the swift return of the deep, autumnal freeze. Consequently, these alpine beauties employ a quiet, accelerated phenology, transforming dormant buds into full, colorful bloom with astonishing speed, completing their entire reproductive cycle before the environment closes in once more. Their colors, often intense blues, yellows, and magentas, are signals amplified by the bright, thin atmosphere, silently attracting the necessary high-altitude insect pollinators that share their brief window of opportunity. They are a profound statement of quiet persistence, tiny biological engines converting the fierce, brief sunlight into reproductive energy, proving that life finds a way to flourish, steadily and beautifully, even where the earth seems most barren and silent. A gentle splash of color defying the vast, quiet permanence of the rock and the high, indifferent sky, a soft presence at the very edge of existence.